It's been 4 years since I covered the original Metroid, and I was always planning to go in the in-universe timeline order, but not having the most recent at the time Wii version was holding me back. So the release of Metroid Prime Remastered last year has really helped me out. I first knew about the upcoming Metroid Prime when I first got my GameCube, and the game cases always had these little leaflets with available and soon to be released games. That's where I saw Metroid Prime screenshots, unaware that Fusion was even on its way first. I've never been huge into the FPS genre, so my first instinct was to feel a bit let down that for most of the gameplay I'd only see Samus's arm cannon. But like the Wind Waker graphics, it was just a minor surprise that I got over in no time. It was actually the final game of the original Prime trilogy I managed to own. My aunt owned it when it was new and I got to play a bit of it then, but things never really worked out for me to get my own copy until summer of 2009, after I'd already owned Prime 2 and Prime 3 for a while. I do have fond memories of those playthroughs I did that summer, along with other games I happened to play at that time, because it was the extra long summer holiday after I finally finished secondary school, and my naive 16-year-old self felt like I was free for the rest of my life for a few months. But enough reminiscing, let's get into the game. First, the gallery has been reworked from the original version, with artwork, music, and a Smash Bros. Trophy-esque model gallery being slowly opened up through playing the game and collecting items and scan logs. I start with just the gunship, and already I have a very small nitpick. I've never been a big fan of this game's take on Samus's ship. I don't like how it's more long at the back than it is wide at the sides like it was in the 2D games. It also just looks a bit too rectangular for my tastes. Probably my least favourite take on the main yellow-orange gunship at least. But as I said, very minor complaint. On starting a new game, Samus is already responding to a distress call from a vessel orbiting the planet Talon 4. Despite being the 5th game released, this is set second in the timeline, shortly after the first Metroid game. We get this narration that was always there for PAL players since the GameCube, but was only added to the Wii version onward for the US. Some dude with a deep voice basically saying, "Samus is the best. This is another cool thing Samus did." Samus then pulls up at the origin of the distress call, gets out and does a cool flip down to the ground so we can get started on the game's opening section, the frigate Orpheon. This game's combat is based around a lock-on system, and so the opening gate gets you used to it by having you lock on to all 4 switches and shooting them to open it. Next I'm taught about Samus's different visors, the only starting one other than the combat visor being the scan visor. Aside from letting me obsessively catalogue everything in the game, I can use it on a few monitors like this to turn on the switches to the next gate so I can shoot them to open it. I start with a few of the series' staple power-ups, but I'll get to them when they become relevant. The classic Metroid blue doors make a return, needing just a single shot to open, allowing me to enter the main docking bay. All over the game are bits of data and logs I can scan. Even the ones that aren't required to scan to 100% still have some form of lore and world building in them. I run through this corridor and go through the door at the end into the airlock. In here there's bits of rubble and the odd dead animal floating around until I scan this switch to repressurise the place. I have to wait for that to be done before I can go through the door to the Deck Alpha access hall. Another straightforward corridor to the door to the emergency evacuation area. There's a massive dead creature in here, but scanning it shows that Samus has no idea what it is other than it was probably killed by loads of radiation. By another corpse I get my first proper logbook entry in the creatures section, a parasite. Native to Talon 4 and usually travelling in large groups, this one is alone and killed by a single shot. I have a few more bits to scan around here. The escape pods have already buggered off and there's data for a hazardous material known as phazon being stored all over the frigate. Moving further through the room, I scan the bodies the parasites are eating to find that they are space pirates. These have been killed by chemical burns from an unknown substance. One of the space pirates in the back is still barely alive, having been bitten by something huge. Might put him out of his misery. The source of the bite may be the tail of the huge dead creature, which has a mouth on the end which Samus believes is used for birthing. I also see that the escape pods that have left were all bound for Talon 4. Next to that is the door to the Deck Alpha Umbilical Hall. Samus starts with a charge beam returning from Super Metroid. I can use it to blow up the rubble blocking this hall. Then through the door at the end into the map facility. I get to see a group of parasites run off to a tunnel that's too small for Samus. Though it would be if she didn't start with the Morph Ball, which also starts with the bombs, of which I can use 3 before needing to wait for them to recharge. The Morph Ball is the only part of the game where gameplay is in third person. Through the tunnel is a map station, but first I scan it for my first entry into the logbook's research section. I walk into the hologram for a slot for Samus's cannon to appear to download the map for the rest of this place. Nice of the space pirates to make their ship compatible with their greatest enemy's equipment. There isn't much left of this place to check out. More monitors have more recordings of what happened here. Parasites have been swarming the vents and 2 parasite queens have started kicking off on Deck Beta. Back through the tunnel, and in addition from the Wii version onward to the Morph Ball is the Spring Ball, being backported from the Prime sequels, so you no longer have to wait for a bomb to explode for a jump. Through the next door to the connection elevator to Deck Beta, I scan the switch to make a hologram appear to activate it with. After riding it down, I go into the Deck Beta conduit hall, which is a mess. The morph ball tunnel here now has electricity coming in and out in front of it that I have to time my roll through, and at the other side is the door leading to the Biotech Research Centre 1. There are more wounded space pirates in here, one with both legs broken and one with severe internal injuries, but both still clinging to life enough to try shooting me. A few shots deal with them, and since I took damage, they leave behind small energy refills, which I can scan for a logbook entry. Nearby is a whole screen showing the life cycle of the Parasite Queen, confirming that the huge dead creature in the emergency evacuation area was one of them. At the end is the door into the Deck Beta security hall. Mounted on the ceiling is an auto turret which I scanned to add to my logbook. Another power-up I start with is 15 missiles, which I use to take this out in one shot. It leaves behind missile ammo, another scannable entry to the logbook. The charge beam can also be used to draw in both health and ammo refills, which is one of my favourite additions to a returning weapon in this game. Through the door and into biohazard containment. A lot of computer monitors to scan here. The first lot are the results of testing phazon infusions on a Parasite Queen. The red squares in my scan visor are entries to the logbook also required for the 100%. This one is listed under pirate data. This log covers the space pirate team on this frigate learning of the destruction of their Zebes base from the original Metroid. This frigate Orpheon and 2 others managed to escape. They mention having Metroids as part of their cargo, which would be a problem apart from the fact I haven't seen any. So we can assume those escape pods took the Metroids with them. Another nice touch is that since they were crushed so horribly on Zebes, they always refer to Samus as the Hunter. Despite monitors saying that the Parasite Queen is stable after the phazon infusions, they must be old results because it has since died of its mutations. One switch here can be scanned to disable the auto turret further on. Along the walls are various preserved bodies of creatures native to Talon 4. Since these are dead, they can't get a forest scan for the logbook yet. One which is closed is shown to be hiding a sidehopper from Zebes, but that artwork is all you're getting, you don't get to actually see one. I get to read the effects of phazon infusion, unnatural enlargement, acidic saliva and drastically lowered pain tolerance. Sounds worth it. At the end is a switch to activate a small lift to the second level. More preserved Talon 4 creatures and a couple more dying space pirates. Although there is a third one with only minor injuries, then one last pirate at the end whose exoskeleton joints have been welded together by acid. Past him is the Deck Beta Transit Hall, another straight corridor with some more reports along the wall, like how the ship reactor's ventilation has been blocked. Then through the door at the end into the cargo freight lift to Deck Gamma. There's another auto turret here and it gets a few shots in because I'm not used to the Switch controller layout yet after having only played the GameCube version, and my last playthrough before now being in 2014. I scan the switch to open the gate to the elevator going down to Deck Gamma. More dead pirates and a switch to activate the lock for the big door in the back. It requires insertion of the metallic ball, and the morph ball is compatible. After I take out this surprise space pirate first, I open the door to enter the reactor core entrance. A pair of auto turrets and more dead pirates, including one who had its face melted off. There's another locked door needing the morph ball, but first through the blue door to my first save station. Gotta make sure to scan it too for its logbook entry. Save stations have been upgraded from the 2D games as they now fully restore your health too. I unlock the big door to enter the reactor core. It's here we get our first boss, as the last living Parasite Queen climbs up from the depths of the core. First I make sure to get my scan in before I kill it and it's lost forever. The logbook entry claims the weak spot is the mouth and that it has been mutated through an unknown substance. Based on the reports of the last queen I saw, we can assume phazon. The Parasite Queen has 2 barriers revolving around it, but it's very easy to stay locked on and circle along the gaps while shooting. Scanning a boss grants you its health bar, and once I bring it down to 2/3 health through just spamming the basic shot, the barriers go wild while the Parasite Queen tries hitting me with a plasma breath. But while locked onto an enemy, I have a quick side jump I can use to easily dodge attacks like that. Once the barriers calm down and go back into place, I release the charge shot I've been holding, followed by a missile and more regular shots to finish it off in no time. The Parasite Queen falls into the core and is incinerated, but this makes the reactor unstable and it goes critical. I have 7 minutes to escape. The newly opened door in here leads into the Deck Gamma monitor hall. I jump up the steps and turn the corner to the next door into the connection elevator to Deck Beta. I scan the switch and step into the hologram to ride it up, then disable the auto turret in front of the door leading back into the Biotech Research Area 1, but this is the lower floor I couldn't reach before. There are more pirates, but they're killed by the explosions rocking this room. Another Parasite Queen can be seen dying in here too. I climb the wreckage back up to the earlier floor, but the doors are inaccessible. But a hole blows open allowing me to escape into subventilation shaft section A. I take the first turn I can into a tunnel filled with parasites, then come out to turn back into another with parasites piling out. Down at the bottom is the door to subventilation shaft section B. I continue to turn through more descending tunnels filled with parasites. At the end the door is damaged and won't open, until it explodes a few seconds later, giving me access to the main ventilation shaft section A. This one has me ascending while pirates drop through the ceiling until I reach the door to section B. I climb up to the next door and take out the auto turrets to power on the next door into section C. Another parasite tunnel to descend through until I reach the door at the end into section D. Back to ascending until the next door into section E. This one has a huge cylinder pump through it. I have to follow it as it retracts until I find the door into section F. This is the last section of the main ventilation shaft, and at the end is Biotech Research Area 2. Samus stops when she hears a growl and looks up to see Ridley, revived from his death in the first game through cybernetic parts. He wrecks the surrounding area and flies off. One last power-up Samus starts with, the Grapple Beam, which I use on the grapple points to swing across this water to the next door. This is the connection elevator to Deck Alpha, and I activate the hologram. But as soon as that's done, the damage Ridley caused catches up to Samus and the exploding tunnel blasts her into the lift, but damages her Varia suit, returning her to the regular base power suit. I'll just take a quick pause in the middle of this tense escape to say that I'm not a fan of this game's take on the basic power suit. I just don't like how small and flat the shoulder pads are compared to the 2D power suits, or the shape of them in general and how they slope down. My least favourite Samus suit in terms of shape, but not my least favourite overall thanks to the Fusion Varia suit's hideous colour scheme. But I didn't just lose the Varia suit, I lost everything. Missiles, Charge Beam, Morph Ball, Bombs and Grapple Beam. This is the first game to actively show Samus's power-ups being lost at the start instead of just not carrying over, and despite this only happening here and to a smaller extent in Prime 2, it managed to become something I saw made fun of and complained about a lot in the mid-2000s. Well, Fusion sort of did it too, but we never had use of them before they were lost in that game. So, despite the criticisms of how Other M handled the power-ups in its story, I believe the main motivation for the authorization system was trying to avoid setting off the "Samus trips on a rock and loses all her shit again" joke. Of course, that brought in a lot of other criticisms, but that's not relevant to this game. The elevator leads to the Deck Alpha mech shaft, which leads back out to the airlock. I once again have to wait for depressurization before one last run through the main docking bay, and I'm safe. Samus sees Ridley flying away and gets on her gunship to follow him down to Talon 4. Metroid Prime does take a lot of inspiration from Super Metroid, from the returning power-ups it contains, to an opening on a space station filled with corpses that ends with it exploding and following Ridley to the planet the rest of the game will take place on. I have sometimes seen a supposed lack of originality used as a criticism, but I don't have an issue with this, as since the game is a different genre, the gameplay experience is completely different. Plus, it's not like it was ever close to one-to-one with Super anyway. Samus loses her tracking on Ridley and has to land on the ground. Welcome to the rest of the game, starting with the Talon Otherworld. Samus's gunship can be used as a save station that also refills all weapon ammo, if I had any anymore, just like it did in previous games. All three main Prime games, that are out right now as Prime 4 was only just properly shown off less than 2 weeks ago as I write this, contain an arrangement of an older Metroid track or two. And the Talon Otherworld's theme is an arrangement of the original Brinstar theme from the first Metroid. It's a good one. Not my favourite of the remixes, but between all three games, there's only one of them that I don't like, and it isn't in this game anyway. First thing I do is jump down from Samus's gunship and scan it to add it to the logbook. The landing site contains quite a few doors, but most of them I can't reach right now, so I just start with the low down one to the right of the ship. This puts me in the canyon cavern, where out from the ground burst beetles, which I make sure to scan. All I can do now is spam the basic cannon shot, but they only take a few shots to kill. I take the door off to the side into the Talon Canyon. Right away I scan a sap sack for the logbook. These are volatile and will explode after taking a few shots, damaging myself if I'm too close. I move around where I can see another door off to the side, but first I scan these mushrooms to add blast cap to the logbook. These also explode when shot enough, but can also drop refills when destroyed. Rather than go for the door, I get climbing these rock platforms off to the left. It's here we get a returning classic Metroid enemy and dealing with an old localization choice. Western manuals of the first game used to call the Jima enemy Zuma before swapping back to Jima for Super Metroid. This game reconciles that by having Zumas be the basic version that moves along platforms as always, and further up is a red, spikier, more armoured variant which is given the name Jima. These differing subspecies only apply to this one game, and in the 2D games and Other M that they appear in, they are all just called Jima again. I scan both of them. At the top of these platforms I follow the path across a bridge and reach another blue door. This one I go through to the root tunnel. I scan the bloodflower here, a plant that spits toxic spores when approached. Also the grass here can be added to the logbook. Tangleweed will recede into the ground when shot, otherwise it will slow your movement when trying to walk through it. My regular beam can't damage the bloodflower, so I run past it to see a door with a metal plate on it. These need scanning for the logbook too. The blast shield can only be destroyed with a missile, and I've lost those. Doors needing missiles used to be red, but the multicoloured doors requiring different weapons to open do return. It's just that missiles don't get a colour anymore. Back out into the Talon Canyon and I drop down to go for the other door I saw earlier, but first a beetle drops a large red energy refill, so I have to scan that. I can also scan this half-pipe looking section for Samus to note how smooth its surface is. Through the door is Transport Tunnel A. A few steps further is the next door leading to Transport to Chozo Ruins West. I scan the switch to activate the lift and ride it up. And we've already discovered the second region of Talon 4, the Chozo Ruins. I'm dropped off in the transport to Talon Otherworld North and go through the door in front of me to the ruins entrance. My suit picks up a report of abnormal seismic activity at the ruin site and points me to the hive totem on the map. But it doesn't fill in the rest of the map leading to it. I have to work that part out myself. I can inspect the pillars to find that they are eroding from age and that they are so old Samus can't even work out their age. Further forward is a door, but there's this weird watery window thing. These, when scanned, turn out to be Chozo lore. It says that the Chozo species is so old and have spread so far that they no longer know their own place of origin. The Chozo that settled here on Talon 4 decided not to base their civilization on advanced technology like those on Zebus who raised Samus did, but instead chose to live with nature, hoping to live a peaceful life and leave their words behind, meaning more lore for me to find. Under the lore is a door to the main plaza. I get a panning shot of this area, including a teasing view of a missile expansion I can't reach yet. I drop down the steps and get ambushed by a group of beetles. There's a door to the left, but this one also has a blast shield. I walk through another half pipe and climb some steps. Up here there's another door to the left. This one leads to another tunnel filled with scarabs, the nursery access. I scan the scarabs, which behave like the swarms of parasites on Frigate Orpheon. When they all drop, they're good for killing for refills. At the end is the door to the Ion tunnel. Ion referring to these eyes on the wall that I scan. They fire a laser when you get close to them. All I can do right now is shoot them to have them temporarily close their eyes so I can pass them safely. It's a straightforward corridor to the door at the end leading into the ruined nursery. First thing I see is more Chozo lore on the wall. This one's a lot of rambling about time and the universe until a few Chozo have started to sense things out of the ordinary and having visions, leading them to think that their harmonisation with nature is soon complete and they will know all of the universe's secrets. There's a small morph ball tunnel in the wall, but I can't do anything about that yet. I get climbing towards this blue door and turn to see a wasp I scan. The war wasps can be irritating pests, diving at me, but are easily killed. Above them I also scan the war wasp hive. Destroying them prevents more from being spawned. But I lack any kind of heavy weapon needed to destroy them. I leave the door here for now and climb a little higher for the next door, leading to Chozo Ruins as Save Station 1. Then I go through the door I skipped into the North Atrium. Another tunnel with holes in the ceiling filled with scarabs and a load of Chozo decorations along the walls. At the end is the door into the ruined gallery. There's a door directly opposite from where I enter, but if I drop down I can see a tunnel for when I get the morph ball back. There's also a door hidden underneath the one I entered through, but it has a blast shield. There's a weak wall made of brimstone on the other side, but I have nothing to destroy it with yet. My only option is to cross the platforms to the other side and go through the door there into the totem access. It's a dark tunnel with the only light source being these plasmites, another one for the logbook. I can kill them, but it darkens the room, not that it matters much. At the end of the tunnel is a crate with a large energy and another tunnel that takes me to the hive totem. I can see an item across the bridge, but when I climb the steps in the middle to reach the bridge, it lowers and the item fucks off into this machine. The room then floods with acid water to further keep me away from the item. This leads to my first mini-boss fight against the hive mecha, which I scan. It spawns these ram war wasps, which I also scan, who circle me for a bit before they try to do as their name implies. I shoot them down and when they're all gone, the hive mecha opens up to spawn more, giving me the chance to shoot its open port for some damage. Deal enough and it rotates to another side and starts again, spewing out more ram war wasps. Wipe them out and shoot again when it opens up. It's an easy boss. Do this for all the ports and the hive mecha breaks down, the acidic water drains away, the item is lowered back down and the bridge is raised again. I claim my reward and I once again have a missile launcher. I only start with the usual 5 instead of the 15 I had on the frigate though. And to test it out there's a door with a blast shield right in front of me. Instead of 5 missiles like previous games, it just takes 1 to open one of these. The door leads into Transport Access North and I'm also given my first energy tank, an extra 100 to my maximum health. I shoot for nearby crates to spawn some missile ammunition, another item needing a scan for the logbook. I'm at a dead end though, as the only way forward is a morph ball tunnel, so I'm going back the way I came. Checking the pause menu shows that although I have only 2% item collection, I've already filled in 20% of the logbook. The journey back isn't completely uneventful though, as the missile launcher gets me access to some places. Back in the ruined gallery I shoot down the brimstone wall with the missile to get my first missile expansion. I also shut off a blast shield on the door on the other end to get access to the Chozo Ruins map station and get that filled in. It doesn't fill in the entire map though, so as to leave some secrets. All the way back to the main plaza and I blow the blast shield off of that first door I found to the side of the entrance. This gets me into the ruined shrine access. Another straightforward tunnel filled with scarabs until the door at the end takes me to the ruined shrine. I hop up this step, over a half pipe and can see another familiar item. But when I drop down, a wall rises up in front of it and I get an even minier mini-boss. First I take out a wave of beetles, and once they're done, a bigger, more armoured one pops out of the ground. I scan the plated beetle, but I don't need the logbook to tell me that its weak spot is its giant glowing red baboon arse. So I keep dashing around it and a couple missiles blow its ass clean off and kill it. The wall lowers again and I can finally get back my Morph Ball. I'm even happier to get this back than the missiles. Not having access to the Morph Ball feels wrong. It's like the earliest moments of a Zelda game before I have the sword. I feel naked without it. This is also the game that established that Samus's body is converted into energy when in the Morph Ball. She isn't actually being contorted into a spine-destroying ball like many of us joked about before. Retrieving the Morph Ball also has the Chozo Ruins' true theme music start playing. There's a breakable sandstone wall in this arena, but the Morph Ball didn't come with the bombs. I still have to track those down elsewhere. But there is a tunnel here leading back to the door I entered from. Back to the main plaza, it's time to climb even higher. If I look up and to the right, I can see another energy tank far out of my reach. I get climbing some more, crossing a pair of tree bridges to find another blue door into the ruined fountain access. Another tunnel, but thanks to some tree roots I couldn't get to the other end before without the Morph Ball. Then through the door at the end into the ruined fountain. Most of this room is acidic water, but my scan visor can reach the Chozo lore opposite the door I entered from. It talks of a massive amount of negative energy emerging after the planet was hit by a meteor. The Chozo have been infected with something they call the Great Poison, and all attempts to purify themselves have failed. So all they can do is wait for a method to present itself. It can't be fully contained either, as the poison has spread into the planet and hardened. I jump across to the fountain spewing toxic water and turn to jump over to this next door. This leads to the Arboretum access. Hanging from the ceiling are the Shriek Bats I scan. They are similar to the Scree from the 2D games. Once they see you, they dive bomb you, dying on contact unless you kill them first. At the end of the tunnel is a door with a blast shield leading into the Arboretum. It's a huge vertical room built around this giant tree in the middle. To the left is a tentacle coming out of the wall. I scan it to gain the Reaper Vine's entry. It can't be killed, but shooting it in the ball will have it retreat into the wall. I hop across the platforms until I see another door with a blast shield. I blow it open and cross the bridge to it to leave the rest of this room for now as I move into the Gathering Hall access. There are many little visual effects that can end up on Samus's visor that I won't bring up all of, but the pipe steaming up her visor is one of the more obvious ones. Another memorable one is certain explosions causing her face to be reflected in the visor. Through this narrow tunnel and now into the Gathering Hall. To the right and up the slope, through the blast shield door, is the Chozo Ruins' save station too. Always an annoying save station if you reload and forget that there are always Shriek Bats ready to jump you whenever you leave. There's a door further up, but first I'm going through this one opposite the save station. This leads into the Watery Hall access, a tunnel with this little watery section halfway through. There's a brimstone wall here I can shatter for my next missile expansion, getting myself back to the amount I started the game with. At the end of the tunnel is another blast shield to get rid of so I can enter the Watery Hall. As I jump forward and turn back towards a door, there's a symbol on a circular tile. Scanning it will have it light up. I next get climbing the platforms and look down to see a big group of blast caps. Blowing them up will reveal another tile with a symbol to scan. I continue to climb and follow the platforms to this gate covered in 4 symbols, with the 2 I've already scanned lit up here too. The third one is on the wall right next to the gate, and the fourth one is below the gate. With all 4 lit, a 5th symbol appears in the middle of the gate and I can scan that to open it. I can see another item, but first there's more Chozo lore behind it. This one recaps a meteor striking Talon 4 that I heard about in the previous Chozo lore I read, but it confirms that the Great Poison appeared right after the meteor hit. I grab the item, which turns out to be my Charge Beam. Glad to have that back, the ability to draw in refills is so convenient. Grabbing it activates some ions, which lets me know that the Charge Beam can destroy them. There's also a Morph Ball tunnel needing the bomb to enter here, something to come back for later. I backtrack to the Gathering Hall to save, and now I can get climbing. Climb all the platforms to this tunnel leading me in view of a door. Jump the gap and go through the door into the East Atrium. Another tunnel with a wrecked middle section with Shriek Bats at the other end. The door at the end leads to the Energy Core access. Since I lack the bombs, I can't use the tunnel and have to take the tougher route on top with the ions. At the end and through the door is the Energy Core. There's a locked door out of my reach above the pool of acidic water. I can scan said lock for my logbook. This one cannot be opened through any weapon. That's 25% of the logbook completed. I've been getting a few notifications of unlocked gallery content, mainly for collecting items, but I haven't felt the need to point them all out. I go through the tunnel to the left of the entrance and follow it to this Morph Ball tunnel. But first I turn right to see this thing, a stone toad. I scan it for the logbook but can't do anything else with it for now. I roll through the tunnel into the Burn Dome access and then through another to reach the door to the Burn Dome. There's a massive War Wasp hive right above me, and out from the ground comes my next mini-boss, the Incinerator Drone. I scan it right away. It holds out 2 flamethrowers and spins in place with them. I just have to not let the flames touch me. After a while, its weak point will rise from the top and give me the chance to shoot it. Doing so with a missile knocks the flamethrower so that it sets the hive on fire. This angers the residents, the new Barbed War Wasp, which I scan before anything else. Even when the drone corrects itself, the flamethrower angles are off, so I can jump over one and roll under the other. The rest of the fight is nothing special. I've always felt that this boss theme shared between the Hive Mecha and Incinerator Drone was way too, for lack of a better word, epic for these two fights. It's more memorable than some of the themes of the actual main bosses. 4 missiles to knock off the drone's aim and the hive is destroyed, the drone exploding afterwards too. It leaves behind an item and I have regained my bombs. The door I entered through unlocks, but there's a tunnel-like bomb opening in this room. Through it is another missile expansion, getting my maximum to 20. Back to the burn dome access, I curl up and let the stone toad inhale me. I then use the bomb while inside to blow it up. Inside is a device connected to a slot in the wall for the morph ball. I scan said slot because it has an entry in the logbook. I get inside the slot and lay a bomb to activate the device. It drains the water in the energy core to reveal another slot. Then there's a hole in the wall I can use here to drop down right near it. I get in that slot and activate it to raise these platforms from the floor. I cross the platforms to this tunnel that leads up and around to a third slot. This raises 2 more platforms leading to that locked door that then unlocks itself. I climb to that door and go through to the west furnace access. A very short tunnel leading to the door to the furnace. There's a track going up the wall that I can't use yet and a morph ball tunnel that I can. It looks to lead to a maze, but everything interesting is at where the track leads. I just roll along to the other side and out into this small room for my second energy tank. This is a dead end for now with my current equipment, so it's time to head back. I can at least take the easy way back through the energy core access now. Back into the Arboretum. I climb back up to the bridge attached to the tree and find another symbol to scan and activate. I continue the climb a little and scan a second symbol on this far wall. Next is a small tunnel I need to bomb through, and in front of the next tunnel I look up to find another symbol on a tree. There's a new kind of grass in the next tunnel to scan, Venom Weed. This one will damage me if I try to roll through without shooting it into the ground first. Through that tunnel and some more climbing to find the gate for symbols unlock and realise I missed one all the way down at the bottom. It's here under some Venom Weed when looking to the right from the first door I entered here from. The gate opens and I can climb all the way back up to bomb my way into this tunnel. Through that is a door with a blast shield leading into the Sun Chamber lobby. A short tunnel filled with Venom Weed and Reaper Vines until I reach the next door leading into the Sun Chamber access. More Reaper Vines and Venom Weed before I can climb the steps to the door leading into the Sun Chamber. There's a huge plant in here that blocks off my exit. This huge mirror on the ceiling flips down to reflect sunlight onto the plant so that it opens up to reveal the first proper boss on this planet, Flagra. First I scan this tentacle of Flagra's blocking the tunnel leading to it. The scan says that the tunnel leads to Flagra's nervous system. I then scan Flagra itself while it spits acid at me. The scan states that Flagra is the source of all the toxic water in the Chozo ruins. It also states that it needs to be constantly exposed to solar energy to keep its current form. So I get behind the mirror and keep shooting at it to knock its aim off Flagra. Flagra passes out and the tentacle blocking the tunnel disappears. I roll in and bomb the slot to make Flagra burst into flames. It shrinks away, but then 2 mirrors aim down at it to make it grow again. 2 mirrors on opposite ends of the arena. Flagra can also try and slam you while making a barrier across the arena. You have to be quick with these mirrors, as if you take too long, Flagra can smack one of the ones you shot up back down. While your cannon can't damage Flagra, enough shots will stun it for a while. I make it faint again and set it on fire again. And as you might expect, next time 3 mirrors start facing Flagra. The new attack it shows off this phase is swiping at me. 3 mirrors isn't much harder than 2, just have to be quick and keep shooting at it for that stun. I like to keep my lock on Flagra and just aim myself under the mirrors so I don't waste time changing targets while still hitting what I want. Another bombing, and for the last phase, all 4 mirrors get involved. At this point there's nothing left to say. If you can handle 3 mirrors, you can handle 4 mirrors. One last bombing and Flagra is done. It sinks back into the flower for good, and said flower starts expelling purified water throughout the ruins, getting rid of that hazard for good. An item appears in front of the exit. I finally regained the Varia suit so I don't look off anymore. I've always liked the Varia suit. The huge shoulders always made it look much more impressive. I couldn't tell you which version of the Varia suit is my favourite, my mind always changes. It's never the one from Fusion though. I have a 10% reduction in damage and can now move in areas of extreme heat without melting. The door I entered through is inaccessible, so I have to take the opposite door into the Sun Tower access. To show that the water is purified, I have to jump into it to reach the other end of the room. Thing is, I'm not only slowed down in water, but my vision is hugely impaired too. Once I'm out of the water and move on, destroying these crates gets me an ultra energy to scan, 100 health refill. Further on is this enemy type that does my head in. Pulse Bombu floats above the tunnel dropping explosive bursts of energy. Right now, I can't kill them. I ignore it and go through the door into the Sun Tower. As I drop down here, I spot another of those tracks I can't use before something bumps me off and leaves me unable to go back up for a long while. The wall in this room has something made of cordite, a breakable material I'll have to remember for later when I'm able to break it. There's some more Chozo lore on the wall. They continue to explain the effects of the Great Poison as it seeps further into Talon 4. The peaceful animals are dying off, while those that remain are twisted into more violent, aggressive versions of themselves. It seems that Flagra has been here a while, as the lore mentions it, while I don't see any remaining Chozo around here. There's another gate with 4 symbols on the track. No point doing anything about it now since I can't climb it. Further up is the unseen enemy that knocked me down, Oculus. With that I go through the door down here into the transport to Magmoor Caverns North. There's 2 other doors in here and I take the opposite one of where I entered from. It leads back into Transport Access North where there's a tunnel for my Morph Ball. But it just leads back to the room I found my first energy tank, so I turn back. This time I take the other door between them into the Vault Access. There's a lift to my Morph Ball that leads to a tunnel that leads to another tunnel that leads to a door to the vault. I can see a missile expansion in the middle of the room, but it's walled in. First there's more Chozo lore on the wall. It's some Chozo bragging about their species' will, basically saying that no matter what happens, they'll find a way to keep going. One of the walls keeping me from the missile expansion has 3 bomb slots on it, so I just have to get in and bomb them all, the last one requiring some bomb jump timing. The walls piss off and my missile maximum is now 25. I go through the other door here into the plaza access. Nothing interesting, and the door at the end takes me back to the main plaza where I can finally grab that third energy tank I saw earlier. With the water clean and some new weapons, I have a few more items I can grab. I return to the ruined nursery to deal with that little maze in the wall. With the bombs I can now get through the maze and reach my next missile expansion at the end. The ruined gallery is the next room I'm revisiting. I can get inside the tunnel below the entrance and to the right to find my 7th set of missiles inside. Back through the Hive Totem and into Transport Access North to go through the tunnel filled with little lifts to end up back at the transport to Magmoor Caverns North. This time I activate the elevator and take it down. Now in Magmoor Caverns I go through the only available door into the Burning Trail. I drop down the lifts to the bottom and go through the tunnel there. Halfway along this tunnel is a door with a blast shield leading into Save Station Magmoor A. Back out and I go straight ahead for the rest of the tunnel. I can see a door, but first I have to scan this Grisby. I prefer to ignore these since it takes missiles to kill them and it doesn't feel worth it. Through the door into the lake tunnel. Here I have to cross a few platforms floating in lava with flames coming out of the walls. At this point, if I didn't have the Varia suit, just being in this room would have me taking constant damage. Past the lava we have another new enemy to scan. The Burrower does as the name implies, trying to damage me by popping out of the ground at me. Past it is the door into the lava lake. It's here we get the establishing camera sweep for this region and the full version of Magmoor Caverns theme starts playing, which turns out to be a remix of the Lower Norfair theme from Super Metroid. Right away a new enemy emerges from the lava and I scan it. This is a Magmoor. They'll breathe fire at me, but enough shots will blow its head off. There's a grapple point here, but the grapple beam is the only item lost on the frigate Orpheon that I haven't regained yet. Instead I have to jump across these platforms with puffers floating over them, which I scan. They look pretty much identical to the bull enemies from Super Metroid, but they're completely different. They emit a poison gas and destroying them will leave a toxic cloud that lingers for a few seconds. Across the platforms is a tunnel to bomb open. More puffers to blow up and platforms to cross to reach a door leading into the pit tunnel. The way forward is blocked except for rolling under this grated floor. Down here is a Triclops to scan. These are a slight annoyance, as rolling near one will have it catch you in its jaws and spit you back out the way you came, but baiting them into grabbing a bomb will kill them. I make it out the other side and through the door into the Triclops pit. As I enter the huge main area, there's a door to the left and to the right. I drop down in front of where I came from and turn around to find a cave with a tunnel leading to underneath the grated floor. I go clockwise around this place, dealing with more Triclopses until I find another tunnel leading to the right hand door leading to the storage cavern. It's a very small room containing my next missile expansion. Back to the Triclops pit and the spot I started at, I aim for the door to the left next. I climb the platforms while dealing with puffers until I reach the door to the monitor tunnel. More puffers and a couple rising and lowering platforms to get past. The door past them leads into the monitor station. This is a big room with 3 more doors, but one of them is out of reach at the moment. This place caused a lot of deaths when I was a teenager. First I jump towards the station and have to deal with the auto turret set up here. Through the station I jump across the platforms to the other side so I can start climbing. Another turret to take care of while I make my way around and jump onto the catwalk leading inside the station. From there I can cross a bridge to another door leading into Transport Tunnel A. Once again there are 2 levels to this small tunnel, but this time I can go along the top by bomb jumping at the start. Don't blow up the block you're on or you're landing in lava. Once I get on top I can roll along to another wall I need to bomb my way up, leading to one more bomb jump to reach my 4th energy tank. Thankfully collecting an energy tank is a full heal to undo all that lava damage. Along the bottom of the tunnel and through the door leading to a transport to Phendrana Drifts North. I activate the lift and take it. I reach Phendrana Drifts, which is covered in snow and ice, and go through the door to the shoreline entrance. There are ice walls to missile through before I reach the next door out onto the Phendrana shorelines. Here we can get a better look at the place. Most people tend to feel that Phendrana Drifts has one of the best new area themes in the game. I agree with most people. First I head forward to scan this new enemy, the Crystallite, basically an ice Gema. I head into the tunnel directly opposite of where I started from to find the door to Save Station B. I can scan the monitors here to find out that a research lab Hydra has gone into lockdown, along with a Western Temple. Back out onto the shorelines I scan these flying creatures to add flicker back to my logbook. Moving right I scan a grate to find that it's brittle. I missile it open and morph ball through the snow to find a switch that unlocks the door directly above me. I move the other way and can now climb the cliffs going above the save station. They lead to the door I unlocked, leading into the Ice Ruins access. I have another Bombu to scan in here, Scatter Bombu. These appear in these tunnels and have free rotating tendrils coming out. I prefer to morph ball around them. At the end is the door into Ice Ruins East. As I turn the corner I scan the sleeping baby Sheegoth, probably the toughest enemy so far with my current equipment. Unharmed when shot on the front, only the icy shell can be damaged and it takes a lot of punishment. When not ramming into me they'll spit ice. After enough hits the shell will break and I can shoot their soft exposed back to finish it off. Once I take them both out, I get climbing and go along the roofs of the ruins. They take me all around the room and to the door leading into the plaza walkway. Another tunnel with the creatively named Ice Burrower that I make sure to scan. I run through to the next door and end up back on the Phendrana shorelines, but higher up. I go up the slope to the left and through the door here into the ruins entryway. This place is filled with pulse bombus. Do not use the charge beam near them or it will pull them all into you. I go through the opposite door and end up in Ice Ruins West. More baby Sheegoths and the bane of completionists back in the GameCube days, these Ice Shriek Bats. In a few versions of the game, these enemies will just disappear for no reason when you grab a certain item, making their logbook entry missable. And since it's easy to set them off and have them explode before you finish the scan, it can be a bit frustrating. Apparently it was fixed by the PAL GameCube version, but I've still never taken that risk and made sure to scan them as early as possible. After dealing with the baby Sheegoths, I enter the ruins just right of where I entered from. There's some Chozo lore in here. The Chozo really aren't taking that great poison well, so they try to build a temple to contain it, closed by a lock powered by 12 artifacts. But they do wonder if this will be enough, whether the damage is already done, or the temple is useless and the poison can continue to spread. In the back left of this room is a new purple door that I can't open yet, so instead I turn right and go slightly downhill to this blue door with a blast shield. This one leads into the canyon entryway where more scatter bombus are waiting. Through the next door into Phendrana Canyon. First I drop down to the platform directly below to find more Chozo lore in the wall. They believe that despite everyone else on this planet being born from the Great Poison, a saviour will at least come for them someday. All of the equipment I've been finding were left behind by the Chozo, which explains how Samus is finding the same equipment she found on Zebus and why it's compatible with her suit. I turn around and drop into the huge half-pipe below, but I can't reach the platforms, so I have to go up this nearby slope and scan a switch to realign them so that they lead to this building in the back. I make my way across and grab my next new power-up. This one is new to the series, the Boost Ball. Much less frustrating to obtain here than it is in the sequel. The Boost Ball lets me charge up and boost the Morph Ball forward, so now I can finally put all those half-pipes I've been walking past to use. Starting with this one. I build up the momentum to launch onto this cliff that leads me back to the door I just came through. And now I've hit another dead end, so it's time to see what my new acquisition can get me in some old places. When I return to the shorelines, Ridley flies by, but I can only see his big shadow on the floor at first. Some would say too big, but he got in Smash anyway, so we won in the end. And continuing the way I came, back to Magmoor Caverns West. Back at the power station there's a blue door just outside of the station itself, left of the door I entered here from first time. It leads into the Shaw Tunnel. There's a glass tube tunnel which, if you're remembering these Super Metroid inspirations, you'll know what to do with later. At the other end and through the next door into the fiery shores. Dickhead flamethrowers built into the ceiling send me crashing down into lava when I try to cross. Then a more open space with grapple points to remember for later. Right now all I can do is avoid this Triclops and get into the tunnel. Out of the other end is another small space to roll into, leading up into a catwalk with no rails that I have to very carefully roll along. I fall the first time, but on the second I reach the missile expansion at the end. I return to the start of that little tunnel and keep moving to find the door at the end that leads into Transport Tunnel B. I have a small tunnel to squeeze through as a ball to reach the door at the end that takes me to a new lift, Transport Talonova World West. There's another door here but no point in going through yet, so I activate the lift and take it up. In this new section of the Talonova world I go through the door into Transport Tunnel B. This bridge with steam or smoke rising from below looks dangerous to fall off of, but it's perfectly safe. There's another missile expansion underneath for a maximum of 50. Crossing the bridge and going through the door takes me to the Root Cave. It's a tall room and I'm starting at the bottom. According to the map, there's a red door at the top. I can't open that yet, so I just climb up this slope and cross a bridge, stopping when I reach the first door I see, with a blast shield, and going through. It leads me back into the root tunnel, that blast shield I destroyed having been the first one I ever found at the start. I go back into the Talon Canyon to use that half pipe I pointed out first time through. I boost up to the left and follow the path to find a bombable wall. Behind it is even more wall to bomb, leading out to one more door for this room leading into the gully. Another simple, quick path and the next door puts me back at the landing site, just higher up than I can reach from below. I follow the cliff up here to another door to the alcove. There's another item for me in here. It's the space jump boots. If you played any of the previous 3 games, you might get expectations a bit too high when you read the word space jump. It happened to me. But this is not infinite jumps like in those, but a double jump. Still very useful though, and opens up even more new stuff for me. I exit back to the landing site, and behind the gunship is a small tunnel I can now roll into for my 11th set of missiles. I get to put my new double jump to use right away. Left from the ship is a gap I can now cross to another door. This leads to the temple hall. I scan the enemies on the ceiling to gain the seedling entry. They grow little needles that they then shoot out at me. I cross to the next door to enter the temple security station, where we learn that we are right above the impact crater. Based on the Chozo lore so far, we can work out that this is where the meteor that brought the Great Poison hit. There's a hologram I can scan in here for some more pirate data. They've been studying this place and found it has a containment field that prevents access to a huge energy source in the crater. This place is then clearly the temple the previous Chozo lore said would be built to contain the Great Poison when it's mentioned to be powered by Chozo artifacts. The pirates have already found some of the artifacts and have started studying them. So the pirates want to get at the Great Poison so they can use it as a power source. I keep moving and blow up the blast shield to enter the temple lobby, then through the next door to reach the artifact temple. I turn left and right away find more Chozo lore on the wall. It just confirms what I already know at this point, about the temple being built to contain the poison and being locked by 12 artifacts. They have been spread across the planet to prevent the seal from being easily broken. I move further along the corridor until I end up outside. In the middle, underneath this statue, is an item I collect. Well, they didn't try very hard at hiding this one because it's the first of the Chozo artifacts. This is the Artifact of Truth. I'm told all 12 will open up the impact crater and to scan the totems around here for hints towards the other locations. Some, but not all of the statues, then display a hologram with the information. One requires collapsing a tower in Phendrana Drifts above the pirate fortress. One is found through the waters in a tower in the ruins where light always shines. A statue honouring the Chozo elders in a hall in the ruins hides an artifact below it. One pretty much just says that an artifact is in the sun chamber where I fought Flagra. But I can't get back there with one door locked now and another at the top of the track. One can be found at a shrine in Magmor Caverns. One is hidden in a pillar in a grove in a far corner of Talon Otherworld. One is hidden in a tall cave at the edge of Phendrana. The remaining 4 it's not telling me anything about. Back towards where I entered from, I go right for more Chozo lore. In this entry they start to have premonitions of Samus dealing with the Great Poison. Back to the Talon Otherworld and all the way back to the Magmor Caverns East elevator I came from and taking it back to Magmor. And then it's back to the elevator to take me back to Phendrana Drifts. This whole detour after getting the boost ball was just to get the space jump boots. At the shorelines, with the double jump I can get on this platform near the save station, take a long jump to another platform and then onto the ruins of this building. There's more cordite I can't break here and I go through the door into the temple entryway. Another tunnel with breakable ice and bamboos before I reach the door to the Chozo Ice Temple. Right in front of me I can see a big Chozo statue holding a platform. A baby Sheegoth comes out of the ground, but I'm more interested in scanning this ice parasite on one of the platforms. I get climbing up them, across the Chozo statue and behind a frozen waterfall until I reach the top of said waterfall. Up here are the busts of Chozos in various roles. All are still in perfect condition except for one to the right which is damaged and made of brimstone. So I missile it to reveal a bomb slot. Bombing it opens a gate keeping me from the door at the end of this room. There's another statue at the end that looks like it froze while drooling, and the door is next to it. Through it is the chapel tunnel. It's a ball tunnel where I have to blow up chunks of the pillars to make a clean path through to the other end, where the door to the Chapel of the Elders is. There's an item in the back, and this one is a real tease. It waits until I'm just about to touch it before it sinks into the ground and puts me in a mini boss fight. First I have to fight 2 baby Sheegoths. As I kill them, more come up from below. Once I kill 4 of them, a wall is smashed open to reveal a fully grown Sheegoth. I scan it to be told that most beam weapons don't affect it, as the crystals on their back absorb energy, which they can then charge and fire back at me. They can ram into me like they're children and also breathe ice at me. They also keep the baby's icicle spit too. Whenever they spit at me, I shoot a missile at their jaw for a bit of damage. I just keep that up and eventually it goes down. The item returns, but first, the Sheegoth left behind a large missile refill that I can scan for the logbook. I grab the item, which turns out to be the Wave Beam. Unlike the last two games where the beams would stack, I can only have one selected at a time. The wave beam has electrical properties and can shoot through certain surfaces. It takes me a bit to get used to the new beam switching controls, since I'm just used to using the GameCubes. The other use for the wave beam is for opening purple doors. I head back, and there are now pulse bamboos in the Ice Temple. However, the wave beam can destroy them after enough shots. Back to the shorelines, and with the space jump I can skip the Ice Ruins east and use the platforms to head towards the Ice Ruins west much faster. Back in there's this hanging rock in the ice ceiling that I can scan for the logbook. In the ruins where I found the Chozo lore, I can climb up with the space jump for a better view, where I can shoot it down with a missile. This creates a platform I can climb up onto the roof of more ruins. I keep double jumping across the roof to reach the purple door I pointed out earlier, leading into the courtyard entryway. Scarabs and the pulse bamboo fill up this path to the door leading to the ruined courtyard. Hopping across the ice platforms after the first two is a ball slot. Rather than the bombs, I need to boost in this one. Boosting enough will have these hatches at the top open. Then across the rest of the platforms to another spinner. This one opens more hatches and activates a bomb slot further up. Climb up a little more to reach it and bomb it to have all the hatches start pouring out water and flood the room. The ice platforms rise up with the water level. I jump across the host of this glowing tunnel and roll inside to find my 5th energy tank. The hole in here then drops me down to the bottom while the water drains. So I flood the room again and this time keep climbing the central tower. There's a purple door and a door with no power up here, but first I take the blue door with the blast shield to reach save station A. I'm going to need it for what's coming up. One of the monitors in here says that the purple door leads to Research Lab Hydra, so once I've saved and I'm back out, I go through that door into specimen storage. I lose a chunk of health to this space pirate running around the corner while trying to scan it and targeting things in the back instead. This one is a shadow pirate that can become slightly invisible for a bit, but they have no guns, having to rely on melee weapons to fight. That entry got me to 50% of the logbook filled in. You get to see the electrical effects of the wave beam when you kill an enemy, as it still pulses over their body for a bit when they're dying, as opposed to the regular power beam which is more like concussive force. I probably should have gone back to the save station after losing that much health, but I'm a bit impatient and keep moving into the next room, the research entrance. A drone floats down from the ceiling and sets off an alarm when it sees Samus, resulting in the doors being locked. A group of space pirates also come storming in. These are just the regular basic space pirates, and I can scan them for the logbook now, as the ones on the frigate Orpheon didn't count. Apparently Samus or her suit don't consider the injured and disabled worthy of documenting. They have the melee weapon of the Shadow Pirate and the cannon that the injured ones on the frigate had. A couple fully charged wave beams deal with them, the charge shot tending to stun them long enough for me to charge a second. Take them all out and the doors unlock. First the blue door in the bottom corner leading to the map station, so I get that filled in. The monitors here talk more about that Phazon stuff that was mentioned on monitors on the frigate. Phazon ore is very durable, so the pirates have been experimenting with making armour out of it. Phazon ore binds through Phazon energy, which is very radioactive. There's also Project Titan, a specimen locked away in the quarantine cave that the pirates want to move due to its violent temper. Back into the research entrance and up the slopes and catwalks to a purple door at the top into the Hydra Lab entryway. A corridor filled with scatter bamboos leading to a door into Research Lab Hydra. I scan the switch to gain access and shut off this force field, which just alerts every space pirate in the room. So I deal with them and scanning all these monitors down here. One of them contains pirate data for the logbook. The pirates have been experimenting on indigenous parasites by exposing them to Phazon. The results were increased size, strength and aggression along with mutations. Sound familiar? The pirates are hoping to create minions with the properties to survive on any planet they can transport them to. However, every subject that received a 4th Phazon infusion died, while those that received 3 were so violent and uncontrollable they had to be put down. Despite that, the pirates hope to get some usable results with Phazon infusion. Phazon fluid is being used to bathe the subjects, even as it turns out to be highly acidic. And that monitor up there has a worrying image. There's 2 more bits of pirate data on the opposite side of the room. This is the log that covers them discovering Phazon and working out that it came from a meteor that hit the planet, confirming that Phazon is the great poison the Chozo were struggling with. The second one covers the beginning of the operation to mine Phazon from the depths of the planet. However, several pirates have been driven mad by exposure to Phazon during the mining. So despite knowing it was an unstable substance, they started injecting it into everything they could get their hands on anyway. Turning around, I find one more piece of pirate data. Despite their increased security measures, creatures are still finding a way to get into the lab undetected. I then take a lift up here to the catwalks above. There was this one space pirate just patiently waiting for me to be done reading before dropping down to fight me, and then some more further up. I was wondering why the space pirate fight music was still playing, but my last playthrough prior to this one was 9 years earlier, so I couldn't remember if that's just how it was or if it was a glitch or just a quirk in this remaster. I make it to the top having killed all the pirates in the room and find more pirate lore up top. Here we get confirmation that the pirates have Metroids here. They were specifically moved here due to the Metroid's weakness to freezing temperatures, to keep them easy to deal with, even the ones with Phazon injected into them. Even then, they keep losing personnel to Metroids who've breached containment or otherwise still manage to fight back. There's a case near one of the monitors made of cordite, and nearby a purple door in the ceiling, letting me jump into the observatory access. Just a few auto turrets between me and the next purple door into the observatory. I start at the bottom of another tall room and have to clear out all the space pirates first. Once they're all dead, a switch at a nearby computer becomes scannable. But first, there's more pirate data next to it. It seems the pirates came across Phazon by chance. They just happened to pick up massive energy readings from Talon 4. They found out it was unstable right away, but still decided to start putting it in shit. There's another one nearby. This one just covers them setting up all their mining operations and research labs. Scanning the switch turns on a nearby bomb slot. I jump up to it and bomb it. This turns on another slot slightly higher in the opposite end of the room. So I go over and bomb that. The hologram device in the middle rises and activates a set of spinners at its base. I have to boost in all 4 spinners to lower a section of the outer fence. Once all 4 are down, the holograms can activate, giving a look at the system this planet is in. The machinery also holds a new item at the top of the room. But first I have some planets to scan. Planet Billiam is never mentioned again past this room. But one that's important enough to get a logbook entry is Planet Zebus. I was one of those who thought it was pronounced Zebes for 13 years until Other M had characters say its name with voice acting. You know, I never got getting angry and defensive when a name I've only seen in text turns out to be pronounced differently than my first guess. I saw it a lot in the late 2000s and early 2010s, not just with Zebus but with loads of things. I usually just go, oh so that's what it is, and easily make the change. Even if I use them for years, I've never had any difficulty dropping the likes of Zebes and Tidus for Zebus and Tidus. Just don't come near me with that Zebes crap. That rhymes with heebie-jeebies, it couldn't possibly be right. But anyway, Talon 4 is also important enough for a logbook entry. What I learn here is that Phazon is having such a bad effect on the atmosphere that Talon 4 is expected to become uninhabitable in 25 years if it keeps up. There's also the planet Twin Tabula, which originates a disease known as Twin Fever. I don't even know where to start making fun of that. And then there's Ore Mine 2, but there's no Ore Mine 1. I climb the platforms around the walls to grab the item in the middle. This is the Super Missile. Rather than being its own weapon with its own ammo like the 2D games, this is used by charging a normal shot and then firing a missile, using up 5 missiles at once. It's very damaging, but if you miss, you have just wasted 5 missiles. I turn around and open the blue door with a blast shield to reach Save Station D, then back out and through the purple door at the opposite end of the room. This leads into the West Tower entrance, our next bamboo-filled tunnel. There's another blast shield at the end leading into the West Tower. I scan a switch to activate a lift, ride it up, and go through the door at the top to reach the control tower. It's a small room with another door not far in front that locks as soon as I enter. I have a few space pirates to take down, which are followed by the arrival of the new flying pirate. I make sure to scan. Apart from the fact they fly, they fight pretty much the same as normal pirates. But when you kill them, they make one last attempt to suicide bomb you before their jetpacks explode. Deal with about 4 of them and the door unlocks. Through it into the East Tower where there's another lift to ride down and then go through the next door into the Aether Lab entryway. As I said before, this was the last of the Prime trilogy I owned, so when I first saw the name I was thinking the devs already had bits of Prime 2 planned and this place would foreshadow it, since it shares the name with that game's planet. More bamboos and another door into Research Lab Aether, and in here we can see a Metroid in the middle of its Phazon infusion. This is the first Metroid in the game and the first one seen by Samus since the original Zebus incident, so it's important enough to get a little cutscene. I scan to find these specifically referred to as Talon Metroids, the Phazon infusion making them almost twice as large as a normal one. Then he breaks out of containment. The Metroid will keep lunging at me trying to latch on and drain all my life. This one makes the mistake of stopping to grow itself a little more while I keep shooting, so it blows up in no time. A nearby monitor claims that Metroid containment is now 100% effective. Then another space pirate shoots me in the back while I'm reading the rest. After I deal with him, there's more pirate data to collect. This log was written at the start of the Metroid Phazon experiment and covers the transfer of the Metroids to Talon 4. There's more data up here. This one talks about Ridley's reconstruction, where we learn Ridley is a codename and he's otherwise known as Geoform 187. They found his mangled body on Zebus and put him through an incredibly painful cybernetic reconstruction, resulting in him also being more powerful. They called the result Meta Ridley. It's well known that there was a planned Meta Kraid who was modelled but scrapped. Kraid did make a return recently, but it would be nice to see him get a 3D boss fight too someday. Through the broken window I find more pirate data on the next monitor on the way down. Despite all the everything caused by Phazon infusion, the pirates are now confident enough to start infusing on their own species, which they're calling Project Helix. There are Phazon madness concerns, but don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Through the window and I test out a super missile on one of the pirates below. It's a fun one to use on pirates, it sends them flying. As I follow its corpse I spot a missile expansion, but first I have to deal with the rest of them below. There's a tank holding an energy tank down here. One missile is all it takes. Also more pirate data. The pirates have started dissecting Metroids to figure out how they work, but that left them with more questions than answers. They can't figure out how Metroids can drain a victim's life force without causing them to lose any blood or other vital fluids. They're basically soul stealers. The series takes place in the future of the Mortal Kombat series, and Metroids are the descendants of Shang Tsung confirmed. More pirate data nearby. They're giving up on learning how to replicate Metroid powers and are settling for using the Metroids themselves instead. First step is figuring out how to tame them, then finding a way to shield them from the cold. If those two things can be accomplished, a small group of Metroids can extinct entire planets easily. And then they consider finding a way to harness the energy they drain from their victims for near infinite power. Considering later reports of Metroid incidents in this game, I don't trust these lot to ever figure that out even if I weren't killing them all. Now for that missile expansion. I have to jump onto this platform and roll carefully along the narrow catwalk with no rails. First time, I get to it and fall at the very last second. It takes 3 attempts to grab it. There's a purple door hidden in the floor under some crates, so I open it and drop through into the research core access. A new enemy variant to scan down here, the Ice Beetle. Then through the purple door in front of me into the research core. Another tall room, this time starting at the top. It's also filled with more space pirates. There's a monitor to scan here to remove a section of a shield keeping me from this item down at the bottom. I drop down to the next level, seeing that some of these force fields are holding back Metroids. I keep dropping down to find another computer to scan that removes a second part of the shield. I take out the auto turrets below and drop to the bottom to see that the only other door in here is a white one I can't open yet. There's also the computer to disarm the final section of the shield, allowing me to grab my newest item, the thermal visor. As soon as this is obtained, the power goes out in the lab, shutting off the door I came in through. With the lights out too, I need the thermal visor so I can lock onto the heat of the space pirates dropping down at me. After dealing with them, I get climbing back up. The Metroids also start breaking free, so I have to deal with those too. Next to the powerless door, the thermal visor can pick up some kind of power source. The wave beam is electric, so I can lock onto it and shoot to restore power to it. The lights stay out though. Back in the research core access, we have the bane of my first full playthrough of this game, the sentry drone. I get a scan in, but it interferes with my vision, leaving the thermal visor the only way to deal with it. They are very powerful with their lasers and machine guns, and there's 2 of them, so my health plummets. I had so many deaths to these in this part 15 years back, but either the remaster is easier or I've gotten so much better since because I only lose 2 energy tanks to them before they go down. Now I just have to keep backtracking in the dark. Research Lab Aether has repopulated, but I mostly try to ignore them and barge past them. I'm really paranoid about getting killed on the way out based on past experience, so I don't want to waste health fighting. To really mess with the player, the thermal visor shows Metroids in the opaque tanks, but they don't break out thankfully. I get back to Safe Station D and finally feel some relief. Sentry drones have also taken over the observatory access, but the rest of the journey back out into the ruined courtyard is uneventful. With the thermal visor, I can now power on the one door up here I couldn't go through before, but first the power source is blocked by Cordite. The super missiles can destroy Cordite, so that's a few more odd locations to go back to and check out now. The newly powered door leads into the quarantine access. A couple more bamboos and to a door leading to the North Quarantine Tunnel. This one has me morphballing through a tunnel while bamboos float overhead and try to shoot me. The door at the end leads into the Quarantine Cave, and I drop down to find out what this Project Titan I was reading up on is all about. There's just a mass of rocks, but then a glowing rock floats up from behind Samos and the mass starts shaking. They come together to form the main boss of Phendrana Drifts, Thardus. As usual, first thing I do is scan. The logbook warns that Thardus can give off radiation that prevents my targeting systems from locking onto it. I start by swapping to the thermal visor and can see that one of its rocks is much hotter than the rest. While I do that, Thardus starts punching the ground to create little waves of icicles. After enough damage to that segment, it bursts to overload the thermal visor. That weak segment is still there, but now its exterior is gone and I can lock on with the combat visor. Don't let Thardus' icicles hit you or you'll be frozen in place and have to mash to break free. On top of that, Thardus can also curl into a giant ball and roll all over the place. It is possible to hit the weak spot during this, but you can't lock on. After enough damage, that segment is destroyed completely. My thermal visor is usable again as I find the weak spot has now moved to a different segment, so I get to work. This time Thardus starts having rocks rise from the ground and fly into me. Once again, breaking the exterior overloads the thermal visor. It's easier to destroy this time because Thardus doesn't bother rolling, letting me keep locked on and dodging its icicle attack until it's gone. The weak spot moves on to its other wrist. That one goes without much of note happening. But then Thardus suddenly gets covered in lightning. The result is a snowstorm that makes it almost impossible to see in the combat visor. Back to the thermal, and the 4th weak spot has appeared on its other leg. So of course, when the thermal visor next overloads, I don't have much to see other than Thardus barreling towards me and barely missing me. After dealing with that leg, the weak spot has moved on to one of the massive rocks in its back. Thankfully, it makes for a much bigger target while it's rolling. Once that one is destroyed, it next goes even higher to a smaller but still large rock just above its head. The destruction of that segment has it down to the last quarter or so of health. Thardus throws a big tantrum and decides that giving me my visibility back will make things harder for me. Now it's the big central rock making up its body that the weak spot is hiding in. Saving the easiest target for last, all of Thardus' remaining health is in this spot. It's not long before Thardus is done for. This several minute long fight took less health from me than a single 20-second fight against those 2 sentry drones. Thardus collapses and gets in one last petty shot to the back of Samus's head. It's funnier that she actually reacts. If she'd been completely stoic and unaffected, it wouldn't have been as memorable. Thardus leaves behind an upgrade that is clearly for my Morph Ball. It's the Spider Ball, the only item from the first 2 games to not make a return in Super comes back here. Well, there's the Long Beam, but that's clearly just become part of the default setup in just about every game after Metroid 2. And besides, shut the fuck up about the Long Beam. No one cares about the Long Beam. Why are you even bringing it up? The Spider Ball's first ability is being able to roll up these magnetic rails I've been seeing all over. Its second ability is to make the Morph Ball hideous. I really don't like how it looks. The normal Morph Ball is sleek and cool. With the Spider Ball, those glowing green ends make it look like a cheap yo-yo. Using the tracks, I move to this purple door in the back opposite where I entered from. This leads into the South Quarantine Tunnel. Just like the North one, the door at the end leads to the transport to Magmoor Caverns South. So I take the lift here down. There's 2 doors in here, first the blast shield door behind the lift to reach Save Station Magmoor B. Then the purple door on the opposite side to Transport Tunnel C. A cramped corridor filled with flamethrowers on the way to the door to Magmoor Workstation. Another large open room like the much earlier Triclops pit. I ignore the flying pirates here and jump the platforms to the blue door to the right. This takes me to the Workstation Tunnel. It's another glass tunnel, but there's a white door at the end, so this is not the room I'm wanting. I go back, head to the opposite side of the room for another blue door into the South Core Tunnel. We have a new scan in here with the Puddle Spore. Looks just like a black spore spawn from Super Metroid. Shooting it when its mouth opens will have it flip upside down and create a platform for me to cross the lava with. At the end of the tunnel is a door into the geothermal core. In the lava are these rotating lift platforms, but I know I can't do anything with these yet. I realise I've gone the wrong way and return to Phendrana. Back in the quarantine cave where Sheegoth has replaced Thardus and a sentry drone is now in the quarantine access, I backtrack all the way to the lift down into North Magmoor. And from there I return to the lava lake, close to where I first entered this place from the Chozo ruins. I can super missile this one rock pillar to break it, revealing my second Chozo artifact, the Artifact of Nature. Then it's back up the nearby lift to Chozo ruins north. First I go back to the main plaza to finally use that half pipe there. At this point the Plater Beetle mini boss appears here as a regular enemy. Boosting up the half pipe I can reach another missile expansion. My next revisited room is the ruined fountain. I curl up into the fountain and have it launch me into the magnetic rail on the ceiling. It goes into this tunnel and drops me into my next missile expansion. Next up is the watery hall where I found the charge beam. Time to finally bomb open that tunnel next to where I found the beam. It leads to a door with a blast shield that opens into the dynamo access. A very short empty tunnel to another blast shield door leading into the dynamo. First there's a magnetic rail to the left. I ride it all the way up to find another missile expansion. I then drop down, missile the grate to the right to find another missile expansion already. I then climb up to the top of the gathering hall again. I can get on these red lights next to the door to the east atrium and double jump up to this grate. I bomb it open and roll inside for yet another missile expansion. The furnace is next with the magnetic rail right next to the ball tunnel at the start. It leads into a higher section of a tunnel with disappearing floor that is much easier to get through with the spring ball instead of having to rely on the bombs. It drops me into a room with a white door and even more rails. Walking along the rails I can scan the tougher plated parasite. There's also some more Chozo lore to the left. The writer wonders what Phazon truly is and where the meteor that brought it even came from. They consider the possibility that it may not have been random chance, that it was forged by an alien race and sent out into space. But a worse thought for them is the idea that the meteor was a broken off chunk of a dead planet, and that an entire Phazon planet may exist out there. If so, what if there were other meteors like the one that hit Talon that broke off and hit other planets out there, spreading the corruption from Phazon around the universe? If Talon 4 is the only victim of Phazon, then at least it can be dealt with for good here. Underneath the lore is a small tunnel into Crossway Access West, and then a purple door leading into the Crossway. There's another white door to the side and a half pipe taking up much of the room. I boost up the other end of the half pipe to reach 3 more pieces of Chozo lore right next to each other. But first, the hint system interrupts to tell me it's picked up abnormally low temperatures in the region and points me to a room incredibly close to where I am now. I'm on my way. I'm nearly there. Be patient. The first lore I scan is a message for Samus left by the Chozo of the past, basically saying, getting rid of the Phazon will be hard, but just do it. The second has the writer unsure if their method of sealing away the Phazon will work, but all they can do is trust that the method with the 12 artifacts will be enough. The third talks about how Chozo were born with the form of Future Sight, but at some point they started having prophecies of something that came to be known as the Worm. Said to be born from a poisoned womb, which to me, who's played this game before, sounds like foreshadowing that something has been born in the Impact Crater where the Phazon starts from. When I turn around I can see a missile expansion high up at the end of the tunnel. There's also some cordite nearby to blow up to reveal a purple symbol. I scan it to activate it. This powers on a bomb slot above me and reveals some magnetic rails, so I get in the half pipe and boost myself high enough to attach to it, roll to the slot, bomb jump inside and bomb it to power on another at the other end and reveal another magnetic rail. I do the same thing at the other end of the half pipe and bomb that slot to lower this piston blocking a tunnel. I get on top and let it raise me to the top, then roll off to the left to grab the missile expansion. I next go into the corridor past a switch leading to a blast shield door that opens into the Elder Hall access. A short corridor with some scarabs leading into the Hall of the Elders. I walk towards this Chozo statue only for the room to darken and an enemy that does my head in to appear. I scan the Chozo ghost, the lingering spirits of dead Chozo corrupted by Phazon drawn to Chozo religious sites. This one isn't too bad because there's just the one of them. They fire some kind of energy attack before dashing off and vanishing. Then when they reappear I get them with a charged shot to stun them and repeat the process until it's dead. The lights turn back on and the hands of the Chozo statue glow and the doors unlock. There's more Chozo lore behind the statue. This one gives an explanation of how Chozo ghosts can manifest with, our wills are just better than everyone else's. I finally scan a magnetic rail to get it entered into the logbook. I get on the statue's hands and curl up. You can tell this statue is of an elder because it bowls me like a pensioner, along the path in front of it and up the ramp into the rail I just scanned. It leads to a bomb slot that, when activated, reveals 3 more slots that are purple, white and red. I can only deal with purple right now as I shoot it with the wave beam to gain access. I then bomb it to rotate the elder statue's bowling lane. I get back in its hands which sends me through an underground tunnel and then up to a higher area. The lane then goes back to normal and I roll along this tunnel to the door hidden behind a force field. I go through it into the reflecting pool access, and through the door at the end of that into the reflecting pool itself. I scan the bottom of the pool to find there are fractures in the drain cover, so I go down there and bomb it. With it broken, the pool drains to create another half pipe. I try boosting up to the second level, dealing with the stone toads dotted about the place. Once I get up, I first go through this blue door with a blast shield to find save station 3. There's a ball tunnel in here, but I'll deal with that later. Back into the reflecting pool, I cross to the opposite side to blow up another blast shield to find the antechamber. This is a tiny room with just my newest weapon inside. It's the Ice Beam. Apart from freezing enemies with a charge shot, it can open white doors. It's also the slowest firing beam in the game. Once I get into the reflecting pool, I ignore the white door in here for now and return to save station 3. This is where I'll be ending things for now. I actually wrote both videos as one big script with the intention of cutting it in half, because I am not making another video that's over 30,000 words long, and this is the most natural point I can find halfway through. It's been a joy to come back to this game, which I'll get into more at the end of the second part, where we'll get through the entire rest of the game. Back to Metroid Prime Remastered, where we'll be finishing the rest of it. Last time we ended with me finding the Ice Beam near the reflecting pool in the Chozo ruins, which opened up even more exploration options for me. Starting in Save Station 3, I go through that tunnel which leads to a door to transport Talon the World East. I activate the lift but don't use it. I instead return to the Hall of the Elders. I scan the switch next to the door to get rid of the force field so I no longer need to use the statue to get back here. Or I would if I was competent. Instead I take the long way back through the tunnel without shutting it off. I hate revisiting this room because I need to a few times and every time I do I have to kill these 3 Chozo ghosts if I want to get anything done. Once they're dealt with again, I return to the coloured bomb slots and shoot the white one with the Ice Beam so I can bomb the slot and get a new bowling lane. Back into the Elder's hands to be rolled into a secret room under this one for my 7th energy tank. I take the long way back towards the reflecting pool, making sure to shut off that force field this time. Back to the transport to Talon the World East so I can take that lift up. When I get there, through the door into Transport Tunnel C. At this point, Talon the World's music has changed from the NES Brinstar remix to a new original track. I've always been a fan of this track. It also reminds me of how the Crateria exterior music changed in Super Metroid after a certain amount of progress. I jump the trees to reach the door into the overgrown cavern. I roll through the hole into the Venom Weed where I can get another missile expansion. Then through another hole to the door leading to the frigate crash site, where the remains of the frigate Orpheon fell and were submerged. There isn't too much I can do here right now, but I will be able to come back later. It seems some of the injured space pirates survived the crash, but they're still in a bad state. I jump towards the right and wade through water to the blue door. I blow up the blast shield and enter the waterfall cavern. A short tunnel where I have to roll under some rocks to the door leading back to the landing site, and that's every door connected to the starting room checked out. I backtrack through the path taking me through the root cave back to the transport to Magmoor Caverns East, and once back there I travel all the way through to the lift to Phendrana Drifts North. Tougher enemies are around the place now as the shorelines are covered in baby she-goths. Next to the door to the temple entryway, I blow up that cordite I pointed out earlier. I scan it to reveal a hole to a magnetic rail and ride it up to my 20th set of missiles. That's a nice round 100. The ruins entryway has also replaced its bomboos with baby she-goths, and the baby she-goths in the Ice Ruins West have been replaced with a fully grown she-goth, now just a regular enemy. Returning to the ruined courtyard, I no longer have to do the water rising puzzle to climb to the top. There's a rail I can spider-ball my way up instead. Now back into Research Lab Hydra. There was that cordite casing in here I mentioned last time, so I blow it up for another missile expansion. While fighting a sentry drone on my trip back through, I get reports of strange gravity readings deeper into Phendrana. Then all the way back to the research core where I found the thermal visor. I can finally open that white door at the bottom to enter the pike access. A short tunnel with a purple door at the end leading into the frozen pike. A new version of the Phendrana Drifts music for this part of the region. I'm starting halfway up this tall room. I drop down below to this purple door, but miss. I climb up to it and go through into the Frost Cave access. I have a tiny crevice to roll through, followed by entering a cave where the door into the Frost Cave is. Right away I scan the glider, which I can't do anything with yet. I can use a grapple beam to swing from them, but that thing still hasn't shown itself yet. More worrying is the Hunter Metroid that flies up from below. These will try to attach a tentacle to Samus to try draining life energy from a safer distance. But I now have the Ice Beam, making all Metroids far more manageable. Freeze and then fire a missile to shatter it. To the right I target a stalactite in the ceiling and shoot that down to create a platform to a door. I drop down and shoot down another in front of another door. I take the one I shot down first and go through the door to save Station C. Back into the Frost Cave I then take the second stalactite I shot down to reach the door to the upper edge tunnel. A longish ball tunnel leading to another purple door out into Phendrana's edge. Another very tall room, but I don't need to do any climbing just yet. After taking out the flying pirates, I look down into the water and scan the gel zap. It can cause static on the visor but is usually easy to ignore. I drop down into the water and go through the door there. This leads into the lower edge tunnel. A very slow trek until the tunnel takes me out of the water and leads me to the next door into the Hunter Cave. There are 3 more doors to choose from in here. First I get to work shooting down all these stalactites in the ceiling. The door to the left is being kept from me by a grapple point, so I hop across my new platforms in the water to reach the rightmost door. This one leads into the lake tunnel. This has me submerged again on my way to the next door leading into the gravity chamber. I follow the path forward as well as I can with my limited visibility, being dropped into a group of tentacles. I scan one to add Aqua Reaper to the logbook. I climb up the nearby steps and jump over more Aqua Reapers to find the source of the gravity readings, the gravity suit. I have always adored the gravity suit. Samus's suit always looks good in purple no matter what the shape of it is. One of the few bits of non-game, non-amiibo Metroid merch I own is the World of Nintendo figure of this game's gravity suit. The others I own are their big Metroid figure and the other M Samus Figma if you were curious, and random posters from pre-orders or old mid-2000s game magazines. Not only do I have a bigger damage reduction, but all negative effects of being in water are gone. No slow movement, no reduced jump height, no more limited vision. The only downside is that because you aren't supposed to get the gravity suit before the spider ball, you can never see a normal purple morph ball, only the ugly yo-yo. Even if you sequence break, no spider ballless gravity suit morph ball model exists. It will always look like a yo-yo regardless. I will say that at least the purple and blue is a better colour combination than the previous orange and green. With my full jump height back, I can climb up to a higher door. This one puts me into the chamber access. Sentry drones are much easier to fight when they're alone and not in the dark. The door at the end puts me back into the Hunter Cave but higher up. I can run across the cliff to reach this cave's last door. This puts me in the Hunter Cave access. A straightforward room filled with gel zaps on the way to a door leading back out to the bottom of the frozen pike. Now I have a very long climb up a few tree bridges and through little ice tunnels until I reach one last purple door at the top. This leads to the transport access. Right away there's an energy tank behind a sheet of ice, but I can't reach it yet. The door at the end loops me back around to the transport to Magmoor Caverns South near the Quarantine Cave. I go down the lift and travel all the way back to the geothermal core. I hop across the puddle spores and the platforms in the lava for the blue door opposite where I entered from. This leads to the North Core Tunnel. With a missile I can break down this stalactite to crush the magma below and create a platform leading to the door to the twin fires. More grapple points here, but also more stalactites to shoot down. I use these to cross the lava and pass through a tunnel filled with flamethrowers. Then more stalactites to shoot down so I can reach the door to the twin fires tunnel. This one has a long magnetic rail journey over lava, and at the end is the door back to the transport to Talonor the World West, closing another loop on the map. I take the lift up and return to the landing site to refuel. Now to return to the frigate crash site so I can finally take this place on. I travel as far down in the water as I can until I find steps to a bore tunnel that leads back to the surface right next to the wreckage. Nearby is the white door that lets me inside, but first I hop back into the water because I missed this missile expansion in a little alcove. Now I can enter the frigate access tunnel. So another inspiration from Super Metroid. I have to explore the crashed remains of a spaceship, but instead of being haunted, this one's flooded. How long have I been on this planet? Nature seems to have claimed sections of this very quickly. The door at the end leads into the main ventilation shaft section C. I drop down to the bottom of this shaft and through the tunnel there to reach the door to the main ventilation shaft section B. It looks like I missed some turrets the first time through, and they even managed to stay powered on. Deal with them and use the thermal visor and wave beam to power on the door leading into the main ventilation shaft section A. In here is a new enemy swarming the walls to scan, the Talon Crab. They act just like the Scarabs, just without the dropping from the ceiling. That's also 75% of the logbook scanned. The shaft eventually ends up underwater with the door at the end leading into the reactor core, the room where I fought the Parasite Queen at the start of the game. It's also where the Crash Frigate's main theme starts playing, and it's another track I really like. I drop down a decent distance to scan these aqua pirates, basically flying pirates but underwater. But one difference is that their shots move slower and are easier to avoid. There are 2 targets for the thermal visor and wave beam on this level, and one more below to power on the next door, followed by one last one right next to the door. It leads back into the reactor access. 2 more power cells to shoot to open the next big door, with the blue door to the side being the save station. The big door takes me to the cargo freight lift to Deck Gamma. First I blow up this grate with a charge shot for my 8th energy tank behind it. There's another power cell to activate nearby, and since there'll be no lifts working underwater, I'll have to climb. There's a lot of floating debris to act as platforms for this climb, some with Aqua Reapers waiting to jump me. And while climbing up I have to keep an eye out for more power cells to activate. I remember once in my first full playthrough, I tried to brute force my way through with no gravity suit, assuming I'd find it at the end of this place. There's one more power cell at the top to power on the blue door. Through it is the Deck Beta Transit Hall, and then through there to Biohazard Containment. Up top here is another power cell, when I can drop down to scan the underwater Aqua Drone, not much different than the Sentry Drone. Blow up 2 of them and one of the pods down here has another power cell inside. One of the pod doors is made of cordite, and I super missile it to reveal another missile expansion. I activate a 3rd power cell back next to the door I entered from to power on the door below. This takes me to the Deck Beta Security Hall. Then through the corridor into Biotech Research Area 1. I take out a trio of Aqua Pirates and drop down to activate a power cell below the door. Then another below the door I entered from, and one more next to the door I entered from. I go through the newly powered door into the Deck Beta Conduit Hall, and then through that into the connection elevator to Deck Beta. The floor below blows up to reveal a floating pirate corpse. I first look down and scan an Aqua Sac, the underwater variant of the Sap Sac and just as explosive. I drop down to the bottom and go through the door into the Hydro Access Tunnel. This contains a morph ball tunnel where the water allows me to jump higher in ball form. Halfway through this tunnel I can do a series of high bomb jumps to reach my 9th energy tank. I bounce through the rest of the tunnel to reach the door that leads out of the frigate and into the Great Tree Hall. A tall room named for the big tree in the middle, I climb up out of the water to find a white door. I go through it into Transport Tunnel E, leaving the rest of the room for later. There's a bridge here with a bright blue substance that my suit warns me is highly radioactive. Making any contact with this will cause continued damage until I get off it. I follow the room to the end and into the transport to Phazon Mines East. I take the lift down to finally reach this place I've seen mentioned in Pirate Data before. Through the door and into the quarry access, then through this corridor and out into the main quarry. This place is tough. Down to the left where there are some extremely damaging turrets above this force field, I take one out before scanning the second to get the mega turret in the logbook. In front of the force field are 2 switches that both need to be scanned to get rid of it. But first I get climbing the catwalks up and around the equipment in the middle of this area. I deal with a few space pirates on the way, and at the top is a power cell that activates a monitor in this nearby glass cage. Scanning that will activate the crane controls. I swing the crane into a wall nearby to reveal another missile expansion. There's another monitor I can scan here which mentions Phazon mutations and candidates for being elite pirates. I spy the ball along the rail attached to the crane to get myself that missile expansion. I then drop down and go up another rail below to a purple door leading to Safe Station Mines A. For some reason this one needs an extra scanning to get to. Now comes what I find to be the hardest single stretch of the game. I go past the force field I shut down and through the white door into Security Access A. 2 mega turrets to deal with here. These are a good target for the ice beam since them being immobile means the slow shots don't matter. Once they're dealt with, it's through the door at the other end into the mine security station. The doors lock and I get attacked by a group of shadow pirates. The ice beam really gets to shine here. Watching the pirates just shatter on contact is very satisfying. I continue forward to find a red door I can't open, but it's blocked by a barrier anyway. Then around the corner, down to the other end, and then up this little ramp. At the top I get a cutscene where some space pirates glowing purple drop from the ceiling. I scan them to learn that they are wave troopers. The space pirates have started trying to reverse engineer Samus's weapons, with the wave beam being the first result I run into. But they weren't copied perfectly, and so have a stronger weakness to the beam they're using. So showing them what the real wave beam can do destroys them. Good old charge wave beam electrocution stunlock. I take them all out to unlock the doors, then follow the rest of the path around to the end. There's a damaged gate, but it's made of a new material I haven't seen before and can't break, Bendesium. Nearby, a purple door is in the ceiling for me to jump through into Security Access B. A small tunnel with more of the blue hazardous material I saw before the lift here in the Telenor world, so we can work out that this stuff is phazon. A couple shadow pirates to deal with, but otherwise a short room to the white door in the ceiling leading into Elite Research. Before the pirates notice me, I scan a nearby computer to activate the platforms leading up. There's this big lad in the pod, and after dealing with the normal pirates around him, scanning the computers tells me that he is an elite pirate. It's not just phazon he's got going for him, but he's been loaded up with loads of weapons. His tank is reinforced with that Bendesium stuff I first saw a couple rooms ago. The remaining computer has some pirate data for me. I get to read more about that Project Helix I found out about at the lab in Phendrana. Jabbing phazon into space pirate embryos unsurprisingly turned out disastrous. Those few that survived into infanthood went mad and started killing everything around them, with none surviving into adulthood. However, that was fixed when they managed to find a parasite that can survive with phazon and included that into the experiment, resulting in a batch of matured elite pirates. I climb the platforms to the next floor and deal with another wave of wave troopers before running around to the other side to scan the computers. One report has the pirates shitting themselves because they know Samus has landed on the planet. Another lowers these walls and more platforms leading to the next floor. Up top is another new enemy, but my scanner instead gets caught on the controls of the industrial pulse beam, so that fires a wall off screen. I finally scan the power trooper, the ones that have copied my basic power beam. I fall to the bottom to find more wave troopers waiting. Back up top, I take out the power trooper and get to work using this pulse beam. There's a lot of weak walls surrounding this area and a nearby spinner to aim it with. I finally realise I haven't scanned the spinner for the logbook and get that done. So I use the boost ball to aim the beam and fire it at each segment of wall. The one directly opposite me hides a white door, and the middle left section of the wall gets me another missile expansion. I then go through the door I revealed into Research Access. This one has me roll down a rail while trying to avoid getting electrocuted by all this moving machinery. At the bottom is the door into ore processing. Once I take out the power troopers, I have this puzzle to deal with. The central pillar has 3 sections that can be rotated separately. All 3 have their own set of 3 magnetic rails going up them, red, yellow and blue. This hologram shows the current setup and next to it is a bomb slot that rotates the bottom segment. I hop inside and bomb once so the blue rail connects to another rail to the left. I then roll up said rail to the second level. And up here is the bomb slot that rotates a central section. I use this one to connect the red rail to an overhead section on the next level to the left. Then back down to the bottom to connect the bottom red rail to the middle, then I can spy the ball up to the third level. Up here is the third bomb slot for the top segment, but it's covered in Bendesium from a collapsed wall, so I can't use it yet. There's also a white door on the way around to it. I go through that first into Elevator Access A. Another spider ball track to ride down, this time I have to avoid scatter bomboos. Through the door at the bottom is Elevator A. I scan the switch to activate the lift and ride it down to Phazon Mines Level 2. While the lift descends, I can look out a window to see how deep we're going. Through the door at the bottom into Elite Control Access. There's this explosive crate that kills a hiding enemy before it can jump me. Hiding behind the crate was my next missile expansion. Then at the end is a door into Elite Control. There's another tank with an elite pirate inside and this one wakes up. It breaks out and the first thing I do is scan it. By holding up their arm, they can absorb my beam shots. That's why I save a charge shot for when they put the hand down to fire from the huge cannons on their back. And then I get more confident and start shooting super missiles at its head during that moment. I'm surprised when I keep up the pattern well enough that I take it down without getting hit once. I now have free access to the rest of the room, and there is a lot to scan here. There's continued pirate self-shitting over Samus's continued tearing through their forces. There's pirate data about the process of reverse engineering Samus's weapons. They didn't just try the beams, those were just the successful ones. They tried to replicate the Morph Ball and horribly mangled 4 of their test subjects before giving up on that one. I find that elites get special food that regular pirates aren't allowed under punishment of their rations being halved. The next pirate data I find is the bounty being put on Samus, including the retrieval of her suit and weapons, after finding she was responsible for the destruction of their Zebus forces. The next one I scan has talk of how the pirates have failed all attempts to breach the shield leading into the impact crater. Their scans have found that there's a massive creature already living inside the crater gestating by absorbing huge amounts of Phazon. Of course they want to get inside and figure out what it is. There's a white door behind the Elite's tank, but instead I go upstairs. The ice troopers first appear here and I scan them too. Given a charge shot results in freezing, they are easy to deal with individually. But the slow rate of fire and charge of the ice beam makes a group of them probably the most damaging of the beam troopers to fight. Up the catwalks to the next set of computers to scan. Most of it is putting out warnings about Samus, then a little further to the top for even more, including pirate data. In this entry, they've also figured out that the barrier keeping them out of the impact crater is linked to the Chozo artifacts, but not how yet. The next entry I scan is about pirate personnel in the Chozo ruins running into the Chozo ghosts and getting wiped out. They believe their appearances are linked to the locations of artifacts and believe the ghosts are trying to stop the pirates from obtaining them. The next pirate data I scan sees the pirates work out the connection between the artifacts and the statues at the temple. The one next to it covers the pirates first arriving and discovering the Chozo once lived here. They see no value in the Chozo ruins and are fine with destroying the evidence they existed here in their search for Phazon. One monitor shows a request for more elite pirates to be sent to the Metroid quarantine areas because the Metroids keep overwhelming the regular pirates and draining their lives. One monitor, when scanned, turns off the force field up here so I can continue. Then one more piece of pirate data. They got stuck trying to translate the messages on the statues that point out where the artifacts are. They can only assume that most of them will be found in places of significance to the Chozo civilization. Then I can go through the white door in the ceiling into the ventilation shaft. I drop down and approach the door only for a pair of puffers to come in through the ceiling to try and gas the place. Luckily they forget to lock the doors and I escape out into Omega Research. The computers aren't interesting and past them is a platform leading to a door blocked by more Bendesium, plus some more wave troopers to deal with. Dropping down to the side, I land next to another elite pirate having a nap with his tank damaged, and the switch to remove the force field into a room with another sleeping elite. While some power troopers shoot at me, I ignore them and have a read of some more pirate data. There's one elite in particular which has managed to withstand Phazon infusion better than the rest of them, and has managed to be made even more powerful through further infusions. They call this one the Omega Pirate, and are hoping they can make this the new standard for their armies someday. However, it needs to devour far more Phazon than the others to survive. Now the power troopers can die. One of the monitors has one of my favourite little things, a message that unauthorised feeding of the Metroid is prohibited. Even some pirates find Metroids cute and try to give them extra snacks, probably getting themselves killed doing so. There's also another elite hiding away in the corner. I go into the nearby tunnel and drop through the door in the floor into the dynamo access. Through the corridor, past another sleeping elite and through the door to the central dynamo. This is the last room of this long stretch and I have only 3 energy tanks left. Scanning the dynamo from above, I detect multiple safety malfunctions. I drop down and get attacked by a semi-invisible sentry drone, the only enemy in the game I can't scan. None of my visors can pick it up normally, so I can't lock on, meaning I must rely on manual aiming. Suddenly I'm having a hard time hitting it, but I manage to take it down without losing much health. But we aren't done here yet. One of the dynamo legs explodes to reveal a hole, and underneath is a new item, but it's in this electric maze. I scan the monitors first to find that dumb shit pirates have been bringing pets to the Phazon mines and losing them to Phazon madness, no doubt getting even more personnel killed, so pets are now banned. Then it's into that maze. Normally the Morph Ball feels perfectly fine to control, but here I'm so desperate to not roll myself into the electricity and get myself killed at the last hurdle, that I'm focused a bit too hard and my control is a bit wobbly. There's a few chunks that need bombing to continue further and I eventually reach that item. It's the power bombs. A huge explosion strong enough to wipe out the dynamo above me so I don't need to roll all the way back out. The power bomb's main function is to destroy all that Bendesium blocking me from stuff, but it's good for dealing with certain enemies as well. I also have 50% of all items now. The doors are now unlocked and I go into this white one nearby to finally reach Save Station Mines B. I believe that is the longest stretch in the game without the chance to save, and I remember dying on it many times on my first playthrough 15 years back. I'm honestly astonished I made it through first time considering last time I played the game was in 2014. Back out and to the opposite side of this room, I can use a power bomb to blow up the Bendesium blocking this white door leading into Quarantine Access A. 4 mega turrets around the corner and the door into Metroid Quarantine A. I get a look at some pirates and pass them a force field keeping out the Metroids hanging out over a pool of Phazon. A monitor says there seems to be symbiosis between Phazon-afflicted creatures, as elite pirates and irradiated Metroids have less aggression between them than other combinations of pirate and Metroid. And they're also jabbing Phazon into the local fungi too. Of course they are, would you expect any less by now? Then there's this computer which scanning will cause removal of the force field, letting Metroids into the room with the pirates being the first victims. I just stand there and let it happen, then use the ice beam to instantly deal with the Metroid. I go into the quarantined area to see these Phazon mushrooms the pirates have made. But I have a problem in that I've hit another dead end. There's a giant Phazon pool keeping me from reaching the rest of the room and no way to cross it. But my suit has picked up some spectral results back in the Talon Otherworld near the Great Tree Hall. So I have a long trek back the way I came, but I can check out some new stuff on the way. Also for my logbook I can scan some powerbomb ammo dropped by a Metroid. On my way back through Omega Research, the elite pirate behind the force field has woken up and he wants a fight. This one actually gets to try out his shockwave ground punch attack, which I'm very bad at timing the jump over, but I take him out easily too. Now back into the ventilation shaft, which is still toxic. I powerbomb the Bendezium grate here to open up a hole into the control room. I jump out and scan the switch to turn the fans on. They push the puffers into the opposite fan to destroy them, the fan and the grating. Where that fan once stood is the 10th energy tank. Back into Omega Research, I forgot about the Bendezium blocking a door on the top floor. I blow that up and go through a new door into Map Station Mines to get that downloaded. Back to Elite Control, I finally check out the white door behind the first Elite Pirate's tank. It leads into the maintenance tunnel, where I roll through the hole to find a huge chunk of Bendezium blocking the rest of it. I blow it up and go to the door at the other end leading to the Phazon Processing Centre. But I don't want to come here just yet, so it's back to backtracking. Back in ore processing, I can use the power bombs to unblock the bomb slot controlling the top section of the pillar. There's also Metroids in here now, but the power bombs wipe those out in one. I rotate the top section so that the yellow rail points in the opposite direction to me, connecting to another overhead rail. I then rotate the other two segments so that the yellow rails are connected, then ride them all the way up to the very top of this room where there's more Bendezium to blow up. And behind it is a door leading into Storage Depot B, where it's finally time to regain the grapple beam. With this, I've now regained every piece of equipment I lost escaping the frigate Orpheon. This game changes the design by having it be a separate cannon on Samus's other wrist instead of coming out of the same cannon all her other beams do. Back out into ore processing, there's a grapple point up here leading to another door on the opposite end. This one leads into waste disposal. It has a little tunnel filled with water like in the Crash frigate, where jumping is much stronger than normal. The spring ball makes getting to the end of this much easier than it used to be. At the end is a white door leading back outside into the main quarry. There's a switch to scan up here, but I balls up and get shot off the edge. I lead the Phazon mines back to the Talon Otherworld. Back in the Great Tree Hall, I get climbing. I reach a spinner and use it to open a gate, then go through it to find a white door. Instead of going through, I turn and find a magnetic rail above where the gate used to be. What follows is a little rail climbing puzzle to reach the top of the room where there's another white door. This leads to the Life Grove tunnel. First there's a Bendezium chunk to destroy to get inside this ball tunnel. This tunnel has a little half pipe I need to boost up to get out the other end and into the Life Grove where the item I was pointed to is waiting. It's my final visor, the X-ray visor. A sort of reworking of the one Super Metroid power-up no one cared about. This allows me to see invisible platforms, or in the case of this room, show me which of these walls are breakable. So I set off a power bomb and blow them all away to gain access to the rest of the room. There's a tunnel in one of the walls to jump to leading to a bridge and then jumping across more platforms before I'm interrupted by a trio of Chozo ghosts. With the X-ray visor I can now see them when they turn invisible. When I finally deal with them, a part of the statue blocking the exit above breaks. So I do my climb again and end up above the structure I found the visor in and roll back into the Life Grove tunnel. This time at the half pipe, I boost up on top of the big rock in the middle and use a bomb to break open a way inside for a missile expansion. The X-ray visor is all I needed to cross the Metroid quarantine in the mines, but now I have a few more means of exploration, let's get some item collecting done. I drop down to the white door I skipped in the Great Tree Hall and use the X-ray visor to find hidden platforms leading up to a blue door. Inside is the Great Tree Chamber containing only another missile expansion. Now finally through that white door I keep skipping. This one leads to Transport Tunnel D, and that leads to the Transport to Chozo Ruins South. I activate the lift and go down, and once I'm back in the ruins, through the door into Transport Access South. The door at the end here turns out to be the one white door in the reflecting pool I didn't go through. Back into the Hall of the Elders, I go through the white door opposite the Elder statue into Crossway Access South. Another corridor, and at the end is the white door leading to the Crossway that I couldn't go through yet last time I was here. Back into the Furnace, I go through the white door into the East Furnace Access. This leads to the other white door in the Hall of the Elders I didn't use before. So back to the Furnace and all the way back through the Arboretum. Chozo ghosts appear here now, and I realise I had a false memory. For some reason, I assumed Chozo ghosts always locked the doors of the rooms they appeared in, even if it's a room they respawn in every visit. For some reason, I have memories of 15 years ago where I got very fed up of passing through this room while item hunting and having to stop and kill the ghosts every time, but obviously that can't be true. Back in the ruined fountain, there's been this blue door all along that I've ignored. This leads to my next short corridor, the meditation fountain. The door at the end leads into the magma pool, a place I'm only visiting now because I needed the grapple beam to cross it. There's this wall in the back covered in branches that scanning reveals is made of bendesium, so I powerbomb it. That gives me my first powerbomb expansion, increasing the maximum I can hold by 2. There's also some Chozo lore hidden here. They have sealed the impact crater with the 12 Chozo artifacts, but now their future sight is cloudy to them. It seems dark, but there is a faint figure clearly representing Samus that gives them hope. I then go through the purple door nearby into the trading chamber access. It seems just like a normal connecting tunnel, but those branches with the red leaves next to the door at the other end hide a morph ball tunnel leading to another missile expansion, then through the door into the training chamber. Right away I get attacked by 2 Chozo ghosts. Once they're gone, 2 bomb slots break open on either side of this half-pipe. I activate one to open up a magnetic rail and a piston leading to it. The other one opens up a small tunnel opposite the door I entered from. I take the piston to the rail, take that to a tunnel, and land next to my 11th energy tank. Then through the hole I opened into the piston tunnel. A few pistons to either avoid or ride up on the way to the other end back into the main plaza. In this spot I finally scan the grapple point for the logbook, now I can use them. Then I can finally grapple over to the missile expansion the establishing shot showed me first time I got here to hit a maximum of 150. Looking down at this tree and scanning this stub has it say that it's decomposing. I super missile it to break it open and reveal another missile expansion. I have to climb up around the other side to drop down into it. Next, back to the watery hall, the charge beam room once again. There's a deep part of the water I can sink into and enter a little cave leading to another missile expansion. Next revisited location is the ruined shrine where I found the morph ball. And now this place has Chozo ghosts too. I can't ignore these ones as I have boost balling to do. First I use the half pipe and boost to the left of the door I entered from to find a small hole leading to yet another missile expansion. That'll be all for now, I'll do the rest of this room later. Now back to the Telenortha world and back to the root cave. I climb as high as I can and then use the X-ray visor to find more platforms. Once the red door I can't open yet is in view, I use the visor again to see a platform, and to the left from it is my next missile expansion. Next, back into Magmoor Caverns. I return to the short tunnel to reenact a memorable Super Metroid moment by powerbombing the glass tunnel to destroy it. Underneath I have a power up for the Ice Beam. It's the Ice Beam's equivalent to the Super Missile, the Ice Spreader. Charge an ice shot and then use a missile to fire a more powerful shot. It does cost 10 missiles though instead of the Super Missile's 5. Then comes a long trek over to the geothermal core. With the grapple beam I can finally swing over to these platforms. Each one has a spinner on it that raises a layer of the platforms higher. Once that one is as high as it can go, I jump to the next one up and do it again. I jump to the first one I raise and onto a platform with a magnetic rail on it. I spin this one up and then jump to the previous platform and then to the one I just raised. Then I can go up the track to a higher platform and then jump over to the final platform with a bomb slot. Bombing this one activates the machinery and has it raise a ceiling to reveal a very long chain of magnetic tracks. So I get started. There's a lot of dropping and bomb jumping between segments of tracks, huge square sections covered in parasites and little square platforms to jump around. It goes on for quite a while before I reach a white door blocked by bendesium. I blow it up and go through the door into plasma processing. It's here I grab my fourth and final beam, the plasma beam. It's the strongest beam and has fire properties, which opens up a few more things. It can also open the red doors. The beam is now red, which makes sense to get across the fire part of it. But there is the kid in me whose only game in the series for years was Super Metroid, still thinking, but the plasma beam's green, I never should have changed it. You know, despite the fact that most people, myself included, almost never saw a green plasma beam anyway because we always kept the ice beam combined with it since we got it so much earlier. Next place to return to is the workstation tunnel connected to the Magmoor workstation. This tunnel is blocked with bendesium, so I blow it up. The door at the other end of the tunnel takes me to the transport to Phazon Mines West. Out the door into transport access. It's filled with Phazon, so I have to grapple over to the next door. This leads into the Phazon Processing Centre, the room I opened up last time I was here but turned around at. It's a very tall room and I'm starting at the top. I drop down to scan the final beam trooper, the Plasma Trooper. I then drop further down and dash straight through the door into the maintenance tunnel. From there I get heading back towards the Metroid Quarantine. But on the way back, the elite pirate in the Dynamo access breaks free, so I deal with him. I then make it back to Metroid Quarantine A and use the X-ray visor to reveal the invisible platforms across that Phazon pool. then climbing nearby platforms and using the visor to reach a magnetic rail going up. But first I powerbomb the wall to break it open, then powerbomb another to reveal the path to this rail going over the Phazon pool I just crossed. Across it is an invisible platform that I ride up to a missile expansion. Then back to the rails I skipped earlier. Up them and through the white door they lead to into Elevator Access B. A short cave filled with burrowers with the door at the end leading to Elevator B. I activate it and take another ride down and through the door at the bottom into the Fungal Hall access. In here I get to see the effects of the plasma beam on most enemies when it just completely incinerates them on the spot. I drop down to these mushrooms in a Phazon pool and spot a missile expansion underneath one of them. I could wait until later when I can do this safely, but I want it now. I roll up into the most dangerous substance on the planet and grab it. A few seconds results in half an energy tank's health lost. Then it's through the door down here into Fungal Hall A. While I have to hop across these giant mushrooms, I also have a room filled with Hunter Metroids to fight off. It gets especially dangerous when I have to use a glider to grapple over a big Phazon pool to reach the next door. It takes 4 attempts in the end to make that jump and I continue into the Phazon mining tunnel. First I have some Bendesium blocking the way into the ball tunnel to blow up. This one gets me every time. There are disappearing platforms or the Phazon ready to make me fall in and take huge damage, so I have to boost across. Past it I can see an entire second route made of Phazon. No chance. I take the other route to the door into Fungal Hall B. This one just has regular Metroids but more of the floor is taken up by Phazon. And I still have to use a glider to cross a pool of it, but there are 2 red doors at the end here. I first take the door on the left into Missile Station Mines. I fill up my missiles and then swing over to the right door, landing on the ground far below it. This is what I wanted though, as I can bomb a bit of the ground here to find another missile expansion. I can now swing up to that door and enter Quarantine Access B. Got to use mushrooms to hop over a Phazon pool, where invisible pulse bombers try to bomb me down into it. The door at the end leads into Metroid Quarantine B. After dealing with plasma troopers, both where I start and on the other side of the Phazon pool, I get rolling along a pair of magnetic rails and then jump to the next platform. After that, I grapple over the pool to the other side and scan a computer to get rid of the force field. A couple more beam troopers to deal with, and scanning this shaft has it revealed to be cordite and damaged. So a super missiling gets me my next missile expansion. The computer mentions the Omega Pirate I've heard about before, saying that its natural lifespan is incredibly short. Despite all the extra strength, all the Phazon running through it is causing rapid degradation. Another monitor says that it can't handle missile attacks well. In the middle is more pirate data. This one shows the confidence the pirates have in the elites. Well, I've taken out 3 of them already before they could even be used in battle. Nearby is a red door into Save Station Mine C, then up the ramp to the 2nd floor. The red door up here leads into the elite quarters access. 1 pirate in here, but the door is blocked off. That's because the bypass unit above is frozen, so a few plasma shots melt it and let me go through the door into the elite quarters. There's pools of Phazon on the floor and a huge tank with a massive pirate inside. I scan it to find that this is the Omega Pirate that I've read about. Once I approach it, it breaks free of the tank, and what I find to be the first truly hard boss fight in the game begins. This guy killed me so many times first time through. His shoulders and thighs both have this Phazon plating on them. I can shoot them, but he also has the ability to absorb beam fire that the elites have. During that first one I take the chance to break the casing on his left thigh. Soon after, the right thigh casing is broken too. He keeps leaving himself open with that shockwave so the right shoulder goes in no time. Then he tries shooting from the cannons on his back, giving me the chance to break the last casing. While he falls over stunned, I can get some shots in on this cannon too. But then he turns into a Phazon skeleton and teleports away while random beam troopers drop in to distract me. The Omega Pirate then turns invisible and hangs out in a pool of Phazon to restore his casings. That's a chance to get some damage in before all 4 are restored. Charged plasma shots do especially good damage here. Enough damage and he'll give up and teleport to a different pool, hoping to get more healing in while I'm looking for him. More troopers appear and he uses that distraction to get all of his casings back. Once I deal with the troopers and focus on him again, I get too close and he decks me right in the face. They don't last long though and the cycle begins again. But this time the troopers distract me long enough that he heals his casings without me getting any further damage on him. 3rd time, I decide balls to the troopers, I'm ignoring them and focusing on the Omega Pirate. I still fail to find him before he recovers 3 casings, but I still manage to sneak a few shots in, getting him to just below half health. Now the distractions can be killed. Although that decision did lose me a few energy tanks, especially when the Omega Pirate keeps backing me into the Phazon. This time I decide against ignoring the troopers. Power and plasma are quicker to kill than wave and ice for me anyway. But I still take too long and only get 1 shot in before the Omega Pirate recovers. Now I'm nervous because I'm under half health too. 5th cycle I get a hooded selection of easy to kill pirates and can focus on stunning the Omega. Here I reduce him to less than a fifth of his health. The next cycle I ignore the troopers once again and just focus on mashing the fire button on that Omega. In this cycle I managed to finish him off. Considering my past experience with this guy, I felt very good about killing him first try here. He looks like he may go for one more attack, but instead he drops dead, falling on top of Samus. The Phazon inside him liquefies and bubbles around Samus, bonding to her suit and granting the Phazon suit. I also really like the Phazon suit. It looks so sleek in black with the red lines, and depending on the lighting, the grey can sometimes look a bit silver. I was a bit baffled and slightly irritated when Super Smash Bros. Ultimate gave Samus a new black palette swap, and not only was it not the Phazon suit, it was an original combination of colours that doesn't look as good as the Phazon suit. But with this suit, I have further damage reduction and can freely move about in Phazon unharmed. Samus is now so radioactive she's immune to radiation. I can now scan this nearby switch to activate a lift to the higher levels of this floor. I walk around the catwalks to reach another red door and go through into the processing centre access. Right away I have my 12th energy tank just floating there for me to grab. I then scan this switch to open the gate into a cave filled with Phazon that now can't harm me. Then through the door to end up back in the Phazon processing plant, but down at the very bottom. Down here are even more mutated Metroids to scan. This one is the Fission Metroid. They can split into two Metroids and have differing beam weaknesses depending on the colour of their whatever that is around their innards. Sometimes it feels like they take forever to kill, sometimes it feels like they're exploding out of nowhere. With the Phazon suit, I now have full exploration abilities. There is nowhere on Talon 4 left that is gated off by item progression. With the obvious exception of needing the Chozo artifacts to get into the Impact Crater, of course. And I still need 10 more of those, plus all the uncollected items still out there. First I return to the mine security station, the early room with the red door behind the barrier. There was this grate made of Bendesium last time I came through, and so I blow it up. I scan the computer behind it to get rid of the barrier in front of the red door, and through it is Storage Depot A. This contains the super missile equivalent for the plasma beam, the flamethrower. This one is a powerful continuous attack, but the range isn't very good and it chews through your missiles as you use it. Back in Elite Research I remember this pirate's tank being cracked and made of Bendesium, so I powerbomb it. This is a more mutated Elite pirate, the Phazon Elite. I scan it. This one lacks the cannons and relies more on the shockwave attack. Even if it is stronger than a normal Elite, after the Omega Pirate, these guys aren't much of a threat anymore, so he goes down with little issue. Once he dies, it turns out his tank was hiding a Chozo artifact. This one is my third, the artifact of Warrior. Still hanging out in the mines, I return to the Phazon processing plant. This specific wall here can be powerbombed, and behind it is another missile expansion. Time to take that nearby lift back to Magmoor Cavern South. Dash through as quick as I can to Talon Overworld West, and back to the Root Cave. The entire top half of this room was inaccessible to me before, but now with a combination of the grapple beam and the X-ray visor, I can reach the red door at the top and just barely fail the jump and have to do it all again. I actually make it and go through into the Arbor Chamber for my 40th missile expansion, getting me to 200 missiles. Next down to Chozo Ruins West, now to finally deal with those magnetic rails in the furnace. But first, Chozo Ghosts appear here now as well. Scanning around, I find that the floor underneath the rails is Bendesium, and so I powerbomb the floor to break it open and reveal a half-pipe underneath. Now I can finally reach the rails. The first two are easy enough, but then I have to land on this thin pipe with no rails that's also covered in parasites. Then two more rails, but I somehow get caught between the second one and a pipe, so I fall. It takes a few more tries to make it back to that rail and land on it properly this time. Then another thin pipe to roll across to one more rail to another missile expansion. That's 75% of all items collected. And now back to the ruined shrine to finally go through that purple door. But first, there's a bombable chunk in the arena I fought the plated beetle in that leads to another missile expansion. Now I boost up the half pipe right of the door and roll through a tunnel to the magnetic rail that leads to the purple door that opens into the Tower of Light access. Then through this short corridor into the Tower of Light itself. I've been saving this place until I built up a lot of missiles. I climb and look up when I can't climb any further. There are Oculus all over these pillars, and since I can't kill them, they are going to be a nightmare for this. I can't jump to the next platforms up, but underneath the pillar is cracked. In fact, they're all cracked at the same height, and it's Brimstone. Usually Brimstone takes just one missile to destroy, but here it takes 3. And 4 pillars, so that's 12 missiles to destroy all the cracked bits. This makes the structure holding all the platforms sink a little, letting me jump to the next level and creating more cracks further. But now there's the Oculus. They take up a lot of space and move, so I have to aim and time my shots just right or I'm seeing my missile bounce off into the distance. I managed this level's cracks with 14 missiles, only missing 2 shots. But there are even more Oculus, so next level takes 21 missiles. But that's the last lot, and I can climb further to reach the last of these beam weapons, the super missile of the Wave Beam, the Wave Buster. Like the flamethrower, this is a continuous shot, so it can eat up your missiles if you're not paying attention. I then drop all the way to the bottom, underwater, and jump up to this purple door in the ceiling. This leads into the tower chamber where my 4th Chozo artifact is waiting, this one being the artifact of Life Giver. Next to the lift back down into Magmoor Caverns North. Back to the Triclops pit, which now contains flying pirates. The X-ray visor shows some invisible platforms here, so I follow them to see a missile expansion inside this rock pillar. I super missile it away and grab the expansion. Flying pirates have also started appearing at the monitor station. Next to the door leading to Transport Tunnel 8 is a platform I couldn't reach first time through without the space jump boots. I can use it to get on top of the monitor station where there is a spinner. Using it will extend a bridge out to the side. I cross the bridge and follow the cliff it leads to another door leading to the Warrior Shrine. The Warrior Shrine from Mortal Kombat is cooler. This is just the same Elder statue I've seen before, but it does have my 5th Chozo artifact in its hands, the Artifact of Strength. There's also some Bendezium in front of the statue, so I powerbomb that floor to create a hole that drops me into the fiery shores. Down here is my 2nd powerbomb expansion. Then a nearby hole drops me into the main section of the room. And now back up the lift to Phendrana Drifts North. I love using the plasma beam to incinerate the baby Sheegoths in no time, after having to deal with their armour and high health earlier in the game. On the shorelines there's a missile expansion behind a wall of ice that I can shatter with the plasma beam to reach it. On the roof in the Ice Ruins East there's a sneaky magnetic rail hidden away that took me a few minutes to find. It takes me to my next missile expansion. And underneath the higher up door there's another sheet of ice to shatter for another missile expansion. Ice Ruins West next. This roof here opposite the purple door has a sheet of ice on it. Shatter that to reveal my 3rd powerbomb expansion. Back into the quarantine cave where I fought Thardus. Next to the purple door to the south quarantine tunnel is a series of grapple points. They take me to a hole leading to the quarantine monitor, a small room containing just a missile expansion. Then to transport access where I can shatter this ice to get my 13th energy tank. Next is the frost cave where I grapple across the glider to the higher cliffs I couldn't reach before. There's a huge stalactite in the ceiling for me to shoot down. This one lands through the ice floor and makes a massive hole. Dropping under the ice I find another missile expansion. Now back to Phendrana's edge, and now I have the grapple beam I can climb all the way to the top. I swing across the glider to the ball tunnel and go through to the security cave. That's my 4th and final powerbomb expansion. Back in Phendrana's edge, on this platform near the top, using the thermal visor will show a door hidden behind the wall. I powerbomb that wall away and into the storage cave for my 6th Chozo artifact, the Artifact of Spirit. That's half of them. Back to the gravity chamber where I found the gravity suit. There's a massive icicle in the ceiling to shatter with the plasma beam. This reveals a grapple point that I can use to swing to another missile expansion, and then back down to Magmoor Caverns South. I head to the Magmoor workstation, a room I've been ignoring until now and just passing through. On the ground is a power cell, 3 of them actually. Activating all 3 sets off this machine that opens up a tunnel in the grating and cools the lava. The hole leading into that tunnel is nearby and I get rolling in. I'm on a timer, and the hard part is that this place is filled with Triclopses ready to make me waste time. I head through the tunnel I opened and scan a monitor inside to do the same on the opposite side of the room. So I speed through the tunnels again and through the new one I opened to another monitor to scan. That one opens up one more tunnel, which I rush through to find my 14th and final energy tank. That's a maximum health of 1499. Then comes a long journey back to the Talanoa world through the Chozo ruins. I return to the Artifact Temple to get hints for the remaining artifacts I didn't get hints at before. One says it can be found near Phendrana shores by melting the ice in an elder's hands. Another says one is in a tunnel of Phazon in the Phazon mines. I next return to the Life Grove. In the pool is a little plug, so I bomb it to drain the water. Out comes a pillar with a spinner inside. Spin enough and it raises a bridge and the pillar it leads to, containing another artifact. That's 7 of them, this one being the Artifact of Chozo. The Chozo Artifact of Chozo. And then I get attacked by a trio of Chozo ghosts on the way out again. But these ones I can ignore, so I just piss off and leave them to their horrible purgatory. Chozo ruins again, to show why I can't enter the Sun Chamber the normal way from the Sun Chamber access anymore. After Flagra's death, the door was overgrown. Even the plasma beam can't burn this away. So I have to go the other way. After killing Flagra, I was sent on an, at the time, one-way path down the Sun Tower, but now I have the means to climb back up it again. I can roll up the magnetic rail but have to scan 4 symbols around the room to open the gate blocking it. The first is found by blowing up this cordite wall, and the second is found by blowing up the cordite wall opposite the first one. The third is at the top of one of the pillars, and the fourth is at the top of the opposite pillar. The gate opens and I have a long rail climb having to bomb jump around Oculus. It takes a few attempts after getting knocked off, but once again, after the first part where I need to bomb jump, The spring ball makes it much easier. I get to the top and return to the Sun Tower access where I see a Chozo ghost run from me. Then into the Sun Chamber where 3 Chozo ghosts emerge from the flower Flagra once lived in. After taking them all out, an artifact appears on top of the flower. The vines blocking the door to the Sun Chamber access also disappear. That's my 8th, the Artifact of Wild. Staying in the Chozo ruins, I next return to the Hall of the Elders. After killing the ghosts, I can shoot the red bomb slot and use that one to have the statue move to reveal a white door underneath. The door leads to the Elder Chamber, containing just the 9th Chozo artifact, the Artifact of World. That's 3/4 of them down. And now back to the Phazon Mines. I fix a mistake I made first time I was here. I go through the waste disposal back to the main quarry and scan the switch there to move the crane to create a shortcut with its grapple point. Then a long journey back to the Phazon mining tunnel. I pointed out this rock keeping me from an entirely Phazon part of the tunnel last time, but now I have the Phazon suit, I can roll through it to safely reach the 10th Chozo artifact, the Artifact of Newborn. That's the last item to collect in the Phazon Mines, as far as I'm aware. So on my trek back, I'll do a quick ranking of the game's main 5 areas. The Phazon Mines comes last. It's a good idea and it's the most challenging, but it has my least favourite visual aesthetic and least memorable selection of music tracks. The Phazon areas look really cool, but most of it is not that interesting mining areas. Then I'd say Magmoor Caverns. It has Lower Norfair's music, which is great on its own, and it works as a good connecting region between the other 4 areas. A shame it's the only one without a boss. The next 3 are neck and neck. I'm having a hard time choosing, and my opinion might change before this video is even scheduled to go up. But if you ask me now, at this very moment, I'd put Phendrana Drifts third. It's a gorgeous area with some of the best overall music in the game. What's holding it back in third is pettiness. I'm still holding a grudge from my first playthrough for that first journey through the labs to get the thermal visor and trudging my way out after the power goes out. Even more than the stretch from the start of the Phazon Mines to getting the power bombs, that part is the "oh yeah, I have to deal with that too" moment for me when it comes to replaying this game. Chozo Ruins is second and very nearly came first, but I swapped positions when I remembered one part. I find it the most fun to explore, and it feels the most densely packed in terms of items and lore to find compared to its size. It feels like this place has something to come back for with nearly every new upgrade I find. I know they're all like that, but here it feels like there's reason to revisit it most. The fact it's arrived at so early, so there's more later upgrades to find and come back with, helps. That's why I was going to put it first, but the later game habit of throwing Chozo ghosts in so many rooms got old. I don't enjoy fighting them, especially when they respawn in rooms like the Arboretum and the Hall of the Elders every time you pass through, which for me tended to be a lot. So that leaves the Talon Otherworld as my favourite. The only area I think looks better than Phendrana Drifts. The jungle areas alone look great, but then there's also the Crashed Frigate with even more amazing music. It just feels like it has most of the strengths of all the areas with no real downsides. Chozo Ruins beats it on item collecting enjoyment, but that's it. Now back to Phendrana Drifts and back through the research lab. My target is the control tower. In the room above the east tower is a frozen window that can be melted. Looking through it I can see some explosives. I shoot them through the window with a missile and the explosion knocks down this tower through the wall. Under the down tower is a tunnel to roll through. Inside is my 11th Chozo artifact, the Artifact of Elder. Now all the way back to the shoreline so I can return to the Chozo Ice Temple. I climb up to the Elder statue and shoot the ice in its hands with the plasma beam to melt it. I climb into the hands and curl up to make it open a tunnel underneath. I roll through and grab that final Chozo artifact, the Artifact of Sun. Now I can finally get past the Chozo's barrier and enter the impact crater. But I'm still missing an item, and now I have to check every item location to work out what I missed. During my search, I also realised that I missed a creature scan in the Tower of Light in the Chozo Ruins. As you break down the platforms, the lower levels release armoured version of the Puffers, the Plated Puffers. After 28 minutes of searching, it turns out I hadn't collected every item in the Phazon Mines. And it's very early on, in Security Access A, the first room you enter after the main quarry. Right at the start there's a Bendesium fence. I blow it up for the 50th and final missile expansion, getting me the full 250. And that's every item in the game collected. Now I have to leg it all the way back to the Artifact Temple in the Talon Otherworld. I eventually make it back and approach the middle of the temple. The totems all activate and power up the central totem. But before I can go any further, there's one last loose end I haven't brought up in a while. Meta Ridley shows up. He flies by and smashes the central totem. He throws some fireballs around and the fight starts, with scanning him being my first action of course. He starts off by flying around over the edge of the temple and breathing lasers at me. That's easy to avoid. Less easy is his spread shot. Then there's these spread shots he does when he flies into the distance and then zooms overhead. If you're locked onto him, you won't actually see those shots until they're hitting you because he moves so much faster than them. And then there's the ground pound into the arena. On the GameCube you could boost ball into him here to burn his wings off early and ground him, but it looks like they fixed that glitch by now. When grounded, he'll just try a couple claw swipes before flying off. This boss fight has an arrangement of Ridley's boss theme from Super Metroid, and this is the game where that theme truly starts belonging to Ridley alone. In Super it was also shared with Dragon, the Torizo mini-bosses and the escape sequences, and Fusion also used it for an escape. But from this game onwards, unless there's something I'm missing, this theme belongs to just Ridley. Once I get Ridley to his last quarter of health, he lands in the arena and his wings burn off. Now his weak point, his chest, is blocked by his hunched stance. As he keeps trying to mouth laser me, I can shoot him in the open mouth. If I time it right, I can also shoot into his mouth before he does his violent charging attack. Enough shots of the mouth will stun him and reveal his chest so I can start dealing damage again. But at this point a normal plasma shot is doing minuscule damage. He can still do his ground pound and at one point does it several times in a row. Overall, this is not one of my favourite Ridley fights. It's okay. It has a great atmosphere, but it's the playing it part that lets it down. I really like the last phase where it's up close and he's throwing everything at you, but that's just the last quarter, and the first flying phase that takes up most of the fight gets tedious when I'm just stood there waiting for him to come back from his trip into the distance. As I've said before, I've played every currently released Metroid game except for Zero Mission and Federation Force, and I haven't played a few of the games in over a decade. But of the rest of the series which I have played, I might say that Prime 1 Ridley's fight is second from the bottom, beating just the original NES Metroid fight. Once again, the fight is okay, but based on what I remember, I think all the others are more enjoyable. When it compares to the main bosses of this game, I guess I like it more than the Parasite Queen and Flagra, but that's because they're easy early bosses that are over in no time, so the fights themselves don't leave much of an impression. If I made a top 10 best bosses and top 10 worst, this would not make either list. Eventually I knock out the rest of Meta Ridley's health and the Chozo statues built to the temple turn red with anger at his vandalism. They all laser him in the chest and knock him off the edge. He falls out of view and only when we can't see him we see an explosion, because this was set before Super Metroid and he can't be dead yet. Where the totems once stood, Chozo ghosts appear, but these ones aren't dicks looking for a fight. They open a portal into the impact crater for me. I go inside and on the original PAL GameCube version, the opening cutscene narrator comes back just to say, Impact Crater. When that first happened it made me jump because that guy's been gone all game and I wasn't expecting any more voice acting. The crater entry point has a save station for me. I go through the door into Crater Tunnel A. This place has red phazon, which is so radioactive and corrosive that not even the phazon suit is immune to it. But these guys I scan are fine with it, the Lumigek. They are the scarabs of the impact crater. I go through the next door into the phazon core. This place looks pretty messed up with its orange and black colour scheme and so much of it looking like it was made of giant teeth. There are infinitely spawning fission Metroids in here and they are much stronger than the ones in the phazon mines. No point fighting them and wasting resources so close to the final battle if I can avoid it. So I get climbing the giant teeth, which lead to a series of platforms until I can land on the giant tooth pillar in the middle of the room. The first door here leads to the Crater Missile Station, and I realise I haven't scanned the missile station for the logbook yet, so I do now. Then it's back out and time to climb even more platforms. I once again reach a section of the central pillar to land on, and cross a bridge and through a door into Crater Tunnel B. I have a series of magnetic rails to cross over some red phazon before the door at the end into the phazon infusion chamber, where this is looking at me. This also made me jump first time in the GameCube, but somehow the Switch model made the face look a little bit goofy, so the effect isn't the same. Probably the only case where I feel the original looked superior to the remaster. It's actually not a giant head, it starts uncurling to reveal the game's final boss, Metroid Prime. This is the creature the space pirates were detecting down here, and the worm the Chozo prophesized. It burrows through the floor in the back and I follow. Scanning it reveals that the Metroid Prime is the source of phazon. The Metroid Prime changes colours, and the colour it currently is corresponds to the only beam that can damage it at the moment. It has a mouth on its underside that it can fire a huge beam out of. It can also fire a spread shot. When its weakness is the power beam, I can try the super missiles, but its face is the only vulnerable spot and is small and moves around a lot. So it's very easy for the super missile to miss, but when it does hit, the damage is great. After enough damage it lunges at me and then turns purple. I use the Wave Buster for the first time in this run. This is good for the Metroid Prime because it locks onto its face and deals constant damage. The damage from that knocks the Metroid Prime through a hole in the back. I jump down further after it. This new room has 3 tracks in the floor for the Morph Ball. After dealing enough damage to stun it, it will charge to the other side of the room and those tracks are the only way to avoid it. The new move it has here are firing these slow homing orbs. These can be destroyed for health refills and ammo. This time I finally managed to land a super missile, which is nice. The first phase down this cave was the wave beam, and after stunning it when weak to the power beam, it turns blue to be weak to the ice beam. I find the ice beam the hardest to hit its face with thanks to how slow the shots travel. Mainly I just land shots when it stays still. I tried the ice spreader for the first time, but it misses the face, bounces back to me and freezes me in place just in time to get hit by the mouth laser. But thankfully a normal ice shot is damaging enough, and soon after I'm knocking it back down another hole. When I drop down after it, the Metroid Prime has its own kind of grapple beam and drags me into it to damage me before revealing its new weakness to the plasma beam. This time when it's stunned and charges for me, there are only 2 tracks dug in the ground. Ice weakness next, and this time I managed to land the ice spreader. This freezes its face in place, but I don't get to take advantage because the homing orbs were already sent out. Power beam next, and now I'm getting better at landing super missiles. It doesn't last long, so that just leaves the wave beam weakness. This time I just get right in there with the wave buster and keep it going until it's stunned again and falls through another hole. Now the arena has only 1 track for the morph ball to avoid the charge with. It also has a move that sends icicles along the ground that will freeze you on contact. In this phase of the battle, instead of waiting until it takes enough damage, the Metroid Prime can now change its weakness whenever it wants, so now you really have to pay attention. Nothing like getting a super missile aim right, only for it to change colour at the last second. It will also charge more often instead of waiting to be stunned as well. Since I've described all the moves, there's nothing left to do other than get rid of the last of its health. The Metroid Prime is my favourite boss in the game. It keeps you on your toes through the constant weakness changing, it puts so much of your equipment to use instead of just what happens to be recent, and all the attacks it keeps throwing out means there's constant action instead of just waiting until the time to fight back arrives. Even when I died to it a lot in my first ever playthrough, I didn't get too frustrated because I enjoyed the fight that much. I eventually take that last bit of health, losing 2 energy tanks in that phase alone. The Metroid Prime collapses and falls through one last hole. I follow and find that the Metroid Prime has fallen into one more pool of Phazon. Its core leaves the exoskeleton for one last fight. I scan this new form to be told that all of my weapons cannot harm it, only Phazon will damage it. That's also 100% of the scans found in the game. The Metroid Prime starts by letting out a huge shockwave that works in my favour because it breaks all the objects surrounding us and leaves me refills. It will generate a pool of Phazon underneath and then disappear, only becoming visible to one of my non-scan visors. I find it with the X-ray visor and then jump on that Phazon pool it made. My suit absorbs it and puts me into hyper mode, where my beam does huge damage to the Metroid Prime along with stunning it. Once I use up the Phazon pool, it's back to waiting for another. It creates another pool and becomes invisible to the X-ray visor. I find it with the thermal visor, but it took so long for me to find it that I had very little Phazon left before it ran out, plus I lost a lot of health. The next Phazon pool it creates starts generating Metroids too, but I just powerbomb them right away. The Metroid Prime is now visible through the combat visor, so it's much easier to see myself punishing it. And then next time it moves into the X-ray visor again. I manage to get its life bar to end before it can reach the Prime in its name. At this point it starts changing visors even without leaving some Phazon behind. The Phazon pools are now producing Hunter Metroids too. Ever do that thing where you obsess over where the life bar is in relation to the boss's name? So after the next hyper mode shot it gets, its name becomes just Met. At this point I'm pretty confident. I have 8 energy tanks left while it has just under 1/3 of its health. Next pool spawns 2 Hunter Metroids and I mess up by laying the power bomb too far away, so they and the Invisible Prime take a full energy tank from me while I'm waiting to be able to drop another. After the next hyper mode shot it has no name left. I feel 2 more hyper mode beams should finish it. But now the Phazon starts producing fully powered fission Metroids, and one of them avoids my power bomb and clings to my head. I blow it up though and rush right into that Phazon. Turns out I was underestimating the strength of this stuff, and this pool has just enough Phazon to finish it off. That is the first time I've ever done a full playthrough of this game without a single death. The Metroid Prime becomes unstable and is reduced to a brain floating in goo. The brain thinks Samus's outfit is pretty sweet and steals her clothes. Luckily she had another layer on underneath, but the Phazon suit is lost forever. It then starts growing and exploding. The creator starts collapsing and I'm told to escape. But the escape is off screen and Samus appears from the portal at the Artifact Temple. Said temple starts exploding and Samus calls in her ship to pick her up. Luckily it was just the Meta Ridley boss fight arena that catches fire. Phazon is wiped out on Talon 4 completely and the narrator comes back to basically say, "I told you at the start of the game, I told you Samus was the best." For collecting at least 75% of the items, Samus removes her helmet. This is probably the most realistic looking attempt at Samus's face. We're still in the time where seeing what she actually looked like was something you had to work for. But this is the 5th game in a row with that, so the next release game dialing back on that doesn't bother me because, as I said in the Metroid 1 video, after 5 games it's not a mystery anymore. Samus then flies off into the credits. But I'm not done yet. After I get my results, showing this run took me 9 hours and 36 minutes, I've unlocked hard mode. Normally I don't bother counting replaying on extra difficulties as part of the 100%, but games like this where there's either an achievement or more extras to unlock for it are the exception. But for 100% completion I get one more scene. A surviving pool of Phazon bubbles, and out from it emerges the arm of my stolen Phazon suit, with an eye in the hand. Going through the galleries, I have almost everything unlocked with a few exceptions. Those are the entries that require a hard mode completion. The only gallery that was completed was the character gallery. Even the sound test holds back songs for hard mode completion in a world where, no matter how much Nintendo tries, you cannot erase it all from YouTube where it's so easy to find. So I get to work on hard mode. The big difference is that Samus deals 50% less damage and receives 50% more. I didn't record the entire playthrough since I wouldn't have much to say, and that footage would just lay useless taking up space. I 100%'d the entire game again because having all those resources is just handy for the final bosses. The GameCube and Wii versions had an unlockable Fusion Suit skin. On the GameCube through connecting to a GBA with a completed Fusion cart inside, and on the Wii through that friend voucher bullshit that gated Prime 3 unlockables from me, and now all the content unlocked through them is now inaccessible legitimately. They didn't bring it back for remastered, which is just a shame and confusing. It's just one character model with a few palette swaps. I would have gone through hard in it if it still existed, but at least with it gone I guess I don't have to look at the hideous Varia colour scheme. I do have some hard mode footage so I can talk about one thing. I still, 14 years later, see people claiming that Yoshio Sakamoto, one of the series creators, said that the Prime games are not canon or in a parallel universe during the build-up to the release of Other M. For anyone who's still hearing that is not true. It's total misinformation. What was said is that the Prime series is its own self-contained story arc, and its events had no bearing on what they were going for with Other M. Because why would it? These games are set between what were once the two earliest games in the series timeline, and Other M was meant to bridge Super and Fusion, games whose stories also had nothing to do with the events of the Prime games. Of course, the main cause of the issue here is that many people really hated Other M. So this led to people either deliberately or unintentionally misinterpreting Sakamoto's words to claim he decanonised Prime for his new game that they hated. We still see this today with translated quotes being misinterpreted and people just fucking going off on one based on faulty information. One of the first things that happens when a new entry in any popular franchise is hated or controversial is demonisation of the most well-known person involved, with "they made something I didn't like" being considered a good enough reason to make assumptions of their character, morality, thought process, everything. It cannot be that they simply misjudged what I would want to see. They must be a bad person, and every part I didn't like was made with malicious intent. I definitely remember people even making up the existence of allegations of abusive behaviour. And I do not mean there were allegations that were false. I mean that there were no allegations and no evidence that there were, but people claimed there were anyway. But he made the game they hated, and so anything goes. You'd think Samus Returns, the remake of Metroid 2, which he made, deliberately including continuity to the Prime games, would shut this bullshit down. But 7 years later I still see it in places. Point is, the Prime games were always canon, and the only people claiming they weren't were the people upset at the thing that they made up themselves. I was going to go further about the way people treat creators after one misstep and how it made me look at and re-examine my own reactions to creators in the last few years leading to 2010, and did write further. But any more is not relevant to this game, and is best saved for if this channel ever makes it to Other M, which would be a long while off since I'm going in timeline order. I did record the Omega Pirate fight so I could go, "Look how slow this fight is on hard, I died so many times here back when I was 16. But then I got his health so low and was like, "Oh, never mind, I'm gonna do this first time too." But then the guy decides he's had enough and massacred me, giving me my first death in Remastered. I think I was 11 or 12 when I first played a tiny bit of this game but didn't get far, and at the time, the sight of Samus flatlining was quite distressing for me. And I recorded the last couple fights. Meta Riddler is just painfully tedious with his health going down so slow. And the Metroid Prime can sometimes look like its health bar isn't even depleting when it takes damage. Still better than Meta Ridley though. It is a really long fight on hard though, taking about 10 minutes for just the first phase, and then 5 minutes into the core fight it kills me. I somehow tricked myself in the months between recording the game and scripting that this death was in the normal playthrough, and I had this whole thing already written in my head about how annoyed I was I got so close to a no-death playthrough, only for that death I was waiting for to not happen. But I do much better on the second attempt and take it down again. Ending doesn't change my difficulty, but I did manage to shave 2.5 hours off my final completion time from the normal playthrough. That unlocks the last few extras in the gallery. And now I've done everything, let me get very personal for a bit, as playing this game at the time I did for these videos was something I really needed. I'd been planning to record it for a while, but things got put off back in November of last year when we learned my grandmother would only have weeks to live. The channel had to take a back seat to caring for her as she deteriorated. And when she did pass, what time that wasn't spent adapting to now being my granddad's sole carer was spent with me unable to make myself do anything for myself. And that included even playing games. What got me slowly started again was recording this playthrough. I still couldn't play anything alone just for fun, but if it was for the purpose of making a video for the channel, if I thought of it as work, then I could do it. It wouldn't be until March of this year where I was finally able to sit through an entire game, no recording, just for myself and my own enjoyment. But that the game I chose to start recording again with was a Metroid game I knew I liked and had fond memories of was significant. My grandmother played a lot of games and it was something we bonded over. While certain games and series I'd bond with multiple family members over, things like Banjo-Kazooie, Ocarina of Time and Final Fantasy VIII were shared between my brother and both parents, other Final Fantasy games were shared between me, her and my brother, Metroid was a series that only me and her really played. A couple of years as a kid not being able to beat the first Torizo boss in Super Metroid, I tried again at her house and managed it for the first time, and that started us properly with this series. I left the Super Nintendo at hers and we'd pick away at it. She'd play while I was at school and I'd come over after to see if I'd missed anything and take over playing. She played games after Super, but she was never able to handle the small screens of handheld systems, so the remaining games she played were the 3-numbered Prime games and Other M. She wanted to be able to play them but just couldn't cope with handhelds. I know she beat Prime 3 and Other M. She got to the final bosses of Prime 1 and Prime 2, but I'm pretty certain she couldn't finish Prime 2. She got much further than I ever have though. Prime 1 I'm not sure about. She played all the way through years before I did, and all I can remember is seeing her at least fighting the final boss. She liked the Prime games but didn't care for Other M. But unlike people on the internet, she just said I wasn't bothered about that one and moved on right away. Because she was 60 at the time and internet fandom discourse never once entered her life. She was still alive and fully aware when Dread released, but at that point her illness had made playing games too painful for her, so she never got to try it. Her final new game I believe was Resident Evil 8 a few months earlier. So when Prime 4 comes out next year, it'll be the first game I'm going into without her around, so I'm without the person I usually talk new Metroid with. So playing a game in this series at that time was very comforting in a way. You know, if she was still around, she'd probably kill me for even talking about this. She didn't like us telling things about her to others. I have no natural way to end this part, I just wanted to talk about it. Let's move on to the last bit. Metroid Prime is a very good game, one of the best I've looked at in a while. I struggle to think of any first-person shooters I like more than this. It managed to adapt the exploration of the 2D games, especially Super, into first-person almost perfectly. Like, the only thing I take issue with is that half of the bosses are either uninteresting or boring. But there's just so much to explore and the upgrades are always giving you new things to check out. In fact, I'd say it adapts the gameplay the best. Prime 4 is still a year away and I haven't played Federation Force yet, but I can say right now that Metroid Prime 1 is my favourite game in the Prime sub-series. One of the Metroid series' best games overall and one of the best games from the GameCube, but still not my favourite of either.